Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live feed. Today is Monday, January 28th, 2019. Welcome in. I'm getting a little early start for everybody who's jumped in early so you and I can talk before everybody else gets here. Let's make sure everybody can see and hear me okay. Hello to Jesse Kirk, Mark Baggett, and Russell Franzen, Jeep Texas 25. Russell Franzen and Douglas Bigger, Snowman, DJ Matrix 2310. Looks like Mark Baggett was the first person to jump in and say hello. So good and happy shout out there to Mark for showing his enthusiasm. Torgo Zero says hello. I say hello to Joe, Rare Apple 3, Michael Holly, Kelsey, Wonderworld, Thomas Carter, Philip Musto, William Sills, Ardo Resenin, and Mats Rickardson. So welcome in, Corey Wilkinson. Hello. And yeah, working on a few things here on the side project. You'll notice off to the side of the page, if you're looking at a desktop, you'll see a few other new channels. The Quick Tips will have its own channel. Well, it does have its own channel. You can subscribe to that now. And I will be doing exclusive live feeds over on that Quick Tips, which you won't know if you don't subscribe. There's also the Subaru channel. So right now those videos are duplicated. Everything in these other channels that I'm creating are already here, but they're segregated onto those channels. And then of course, Cooking with Carey. If you enjoy my cooking videos, pretty soon I hope to get back to doing that. That won't be something I do very often, maybe once a month, but you'll again subscribe to that if you want to be alerted for those live broadcasts. They're going to be weaned off of this channel so that they won't be live streamed here, but will be live streamed over there instead. And what that does for me is it gives me an opportunity to still be able to live stream. If something should happen to any of like this channel, then I will be able to shift over until the problem's resolved to another channel, so I'm not shut down completely. And I think I need a minimum of 4,000 subscribers or something like that to be able to live stream. So if you want to subscribe to Quick Tips or Subaru or Cooking, the links are to the right of the video and should be offered to you. The Quick Tips channel is just Computer Quick Tips, and that will be eventually loaded up with all the current Quick Tips. It's very time consuming. Every video has to be re-uploaded, every thumbnail, every video description, tags, keywords, all the settings in 3 different pages of YouTube all have to be selected accordingly. So each video, you know, it's not as simple as pushing one button. It takes about a half an hour to an hour just to move the video and all of its details over. So that'll get us kicked off there. And there goes Jimmy. Hi, buddy. You're a good boy. Yes, you're a good boy. So in the meantime, I did have a build scheduled. However, there appears to be a couple more parts waiting. So instead, I'm going to do a review of this Dell Optiplex 7010. Now, this is an off-lease computer that I purchased from Tiger Direct from a company called JoySystems that refurbishes computers. And you may say, was this a repeat? No, that computer that was here before had 2 different serial numbers installed on it. So when you use some utilities to extract the serial number off Windows, 2 different utilities extracted 2 different keys, which means the people at JoySystems, at least on that one system, didn't configure it properly. When I contacted JoySystems support, they didn't have any no training or interpersonal skills training on how to talk to a customer with any sort of customer service. There was no, for example, thank you for contacting us, I'd be happy to help you. It was just almost like resentment and anger that you were reaching out to them. That's the way it read in the email, which is why their technical support, if you Google their reviews, people are complaining up and down about their support, and I've experienced it firsthand. They ended up providing me a new product key, which I then activated, and that computer was shipped off to a viewer just like yourself. His name is Tony, and Tony joins us in the chat quite often, and Tony will receive that computer on Wednesday. This is an extra one. This is the second one. These computers are 8 gigs of RAM, Core i5, 500 gig hard drive, DDR3 RAM, by the way. They have USB 3 and USB 2. And you know, when you swap out the hard drive for a solid state drive, they're rocket ships as far as being able to use it for everyday use. You could turn it into a gaming machine if you wanted to spend a little bit more money, but for everybody who's not a gamer, you may not need to buy a new computer if what you're running is several years old and slow and sluggish, and perhaps even an issue with security, because the internet is always evolving. Every second of every day there's a new threat. Literally every second there's a new threat. So if you don't have the latest hardware, but you're jumping into the internet where the latest hardware exists, you are susceptible to identity theft, viruses, worms, all sorts of nastiness. So it's for your own safety that you would have something modern when you're using the internet. If you're disconnected from the internet, it doesn't matter. So you don't have to buy the latest and greatest, given that CPU speeds haven't really gone up as far as frequency. CPU frequencies have pretty much stayed the same for about 8 years. And so what they're doing is they're adding more cores, but most end users don't need more cores any more than you need 2 or 3 engines in your car. I mean, unless you're towing something, unless you have a very specific need, it's highly unlikely you'll ever notice any difference. So why spend that extra money if you don't have to? And much like a car, computers, they depreciate rather rapidly. So why not buy a computer that's already depreciated? For the most part, technology, if it runs for 2 weeks, it's probably going to run a very long time. The only parts that you have to worry about are moving parts. So anything that's solid state, anything that is a circuit board, that'll just run further than your lifespan. Statistically speaking, it has a longer lifespan than you do. But anything that's a moving part, well, where there's friction, there's heat, and where there's heat, there's wear, and where there's eventual failure. So things like fans, hard drives, these are the things you've got to worry about with regards to age. But by swapping out a mechanical spinning hard drive to a solid state drive, now all you have to worry about are fans. And fans don't necessarily impact the reliability of a computer for most of us. Computers, when they start to overheat, will start to throttle. Most end users don't even know when it's happening. So don't let these people on the internet who monitor their temps give you an idea that you should monitor your temp. It's just people with too much time on their hands that are, just looking for something to do. I mean, I guess if you're looking for something to do, I mean, you could also take your refrigerator apart if you want to. I mean, it's not like it does anything important for you. The reason I'm so sarcastic about it is when computers go down, people freak out. Like my phone blows up and people are like, just at their, sometimes you have to be part psychologist, to talk people, to calm them down, talk them down. The world's not over, everything's gonna be okay. So if you have that personality where it's important to you that your computer works, my advice is leave it alone. I had an email, a gentleman named Al emailed me and said that he had an older machine, and in a recent video where I talk about just upgrading to a solid state drive on an older machine may be enough to reinvigorate it into a whole new machine as far as how it feels and how it acts. And it's the single best upgrade you can do to any computer, period, done, end of story. Now, people that watch me know that I've been in the business since, professionally for 28 years now. And it is a little frustrating that somehow that's not taken under consideration by some people. So Al says, hey, I saw your video, you mentioned upgrading to SSD being a good investment on this old rig I've got. And yet someone else told me that the computer was too old to benefit from that, and I didn't know who to believe. Well, I mean, Al, you can believe the guy with 28 years of experience, or you can believe whoever this mystery person, this other mystery person was. So anyway, so Al continues on with his email and says, well, I decided to risk it and bought the SSD and put it in, and my computer boot time went from over 2 minutes to 22 seconds. And you were right and the other person was wrong, and it's the single best upgrade I ever did. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what I said, but thanks for telling me. Anyway, it's just weird to me, that people don't consider the source of the information, and that when somebody with all this experience and all this history here on the internet, which is verifiable, has nothing, no financial motive for telling you this information, and then somebody else you know who doesn't have this level, even if there's just somebody who works at the store where you're considering buying the solid state drive, everybody's got an opinion. If you ask, they'll tell you. Most people will tell you their opinion. And whose opinion you choose to follow is entirely up to you. But if there's one thing to take away from this, the easiest way to decide whose opinion to follow is your own, right? And what I do is I consider where the information is sourced from. If the information is sourced from a friend who heard it from a friend, it's hearsay. If the information's on TV, they're selling commercials, they're motivated by money, it may not be true. If the source of information is from somebody offering a community service, maybe even like the Red Cross or the Salvation Army, or a charitable organization that's got nothing to gain other than helping people, then I would weigh in their opinion accordingly. So it's just weird to me that somebody has reason to weigh my opinion the same as somebody else when they don't have the same background. So that's weird. To me, it's just weird. But congratulations to Al. I'm glad you finally saw the light. And perhaps that's a very valuable lesson for Al when asking that person for any computer advice in the future versus, there's no financial incentive for me. Remember, I do these videos because I enjoy doing them. I don't do them because I have to. And there just seems to be a very interesting take from people who looking for a reason to demonize. He didn't demonize me, but he was very skeptical. I think skepticism is healthy, and he ultimately did the right thing by deciding for himself. But clearly, if it's me and I've got information coming from an expert who is just offering it for free and information coming from literally anybody else, it's a pretty easy thing to decide to me. I guess I'm weird. So Mr. Snidely says, from watching your videos, I just built a Z390M with an i5 8400T, 16 gigs of RAM, 970 NVMe 512 gig SSD with a Noctua D9L. It's quiet and cool. And he says, thanks. Well, thank you, Mr. Snidely. That's awesome. And I have to say, that's the biggest thrill for me, is when people follow the advice I offer. They voluntarily decide to follow it, and then they email me and say, thank you. I mean, that's just, I suppose if I have an agenda, it's just getting that respect. And that means a lot to me, and thank you. Ken Masudik says, hello from Wisconsin. It's got 14 inches of snow today with a wind chill temp of negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit tonight. Not like Phoenix. Yes, but Phoenix is filled with a bunch of jerks. So I'd rather take the cold where people are kinder and considerate to each other than being surrounded by morons in their own little bubbles in everywhere of society. I'm surrounded by it. I'm trapped. They've got me surrounded. I really don't like Phoenix. I'll take the snow over being surrounded by jerks any day of the week. I mean, jerks exist everywhere you go, but in Phoenix, it is such a ridiculous amount of jerks, disrespectful jerks to nice people. It's about, I'd say 8 out of 10 people in Phoenix are jerks, just complete jerk. And jerk isn't the word I want to use, but it's the word I'm using. And in Michigan, Wisconsin, back east, people are just nicer to each other. But, some people are immune to that. I'm a little more sensitive to it. I think I've just been here too long. Hello to John Paul Bacon and James Liebig and the Liebig family. I see Catherine Anna Hauserman's joined us, and Jeff Steed says he went to work this morning with 14 below. Yeah. So you moved from your heated house or apartment to your heated car, and then walked from your heated car across the parking lot into your heated office, and it was 14 below in those brief moments that you were outside. Let me get my violin. It's not that bad. You should try when it's 120 and your car is 200 degrees on the inside. Yeah, you should totally try that sometime. You know, when you're cold, you can always put more clothes on. That's all I'm saying. I'll take the cold any day. The cold is also cleaner air. The air that I'm breathing, I might as well be a smoker for the contaminants in the desert. It's just horrible, horrible. But hey, I'll just keep selling it, right? Just convincing y'all to move over here. Yvonne Marical says, not bad in Montreal, sunny with passing clouds and -2 Fahrenheit. Yeah, you know, I'm surprised. Had a great conversation with a gentleman in Montreal. Very, very nice conversation. And, you know, Americans, we kind of, there's this sort of stereotype that people that are French or speak French, whether it's Montreal or Paris, treat English speakers poorly or disrespectfully. I have not experienced that, and nor has my sister. In fact, I would say the conversation I had recently with a viewer in Montreal was one of the most flattering, joyful, interesting conversations I've had with a viewer in a long time. My sister went to Paris, and I asked her, you know, did a bunch of men hit on you, and did they, you know, turn their nose up because you didn't speak French? She goes, no, everybody was super friendly, and I can't wait to go back. And so these stereotypes are just simply not true. At least in real life experience that I have and people I know have had, it's exactly the opposite of what is sort of considered common misinformation, I suppose we'll call it that. I mean, every area, no matter where you go, there's jerks, you know. But I haven't met any from Paris or Montreal. Irving T joins us from France. Irving's one of the best viewers I've got. I mean, I've got a lot of good viewers, but there's some of you who've been around a very long time. And it doesn't matter what your age is or what your race is or what language you speak. It doesn't define being a jerk. The jerks exist across all age, race, religion, and other boundaries. So I'm thinking about doing a live chat only for moderators as a way to escape trolls. It won't be something that is going to replace the regular live streams, but in addition to, or perhaps on a certain day of the week, it'll be for moderators only. And that'll be my gift to them so that I'm surrounded by the people who respect and support me, and each other, by the way, as their own reward in our own little community. And so if there's ever a reason to be a mod, that'll be it. And I'm going to try that first before moving on to some sort of paid platform to deal with the trolls. As the channel grows, it is a downside of becoming popular, is attracting the wrong crowd. So just some ideas that I've got rolling around in my head on how to deal with that. And yeah. So Z Hammer says, I've been here since 2015. Well, Z Hammer, let's make you a moderator. How about that? I do recognize your name. Some people, yeah. Nemanjapo says, hello from Serbia. We watch you regularly. Are very happy to learn something new from video to video. Keep up the best work. That's very kind of you. Thank you. All over the world. Nice people all over the world. And I'm happy that I have some small collection of that here. Bernd says he's Norwegian. Welcome in, Bernd. John Rice says hello. Kevin Billerbeck says hello from freezing Iowa. 32 below here. Tina McLaughlin says it's chilly in Philly. Just looking through comments. I know I was about to say something and that thought is gone. This is what happens when you get old. Mike Zawolinski says hello from Rhode Island. Welcome in, Mike. And let's see. Sublime 90 and Super 360, Brandon Stevens. Hello, guys. Jeff Steed, Michael Shaw, Richard Barrow, Michael Collis, Brett Kennedy, David McGurran. Dave Murray joins us from Scotland. Yeah, Tony should get his computer on Wednesday, sometime Wednesday. So anyway, so what I want to do, I want to move on with today's video because we've got about almost 500 people watching. And so again, this is brand new out of the box. So this was ordered from Tiger Direct. And it was $224.99. And I think the shipping was $8 something. It was pretty cheap shipping. And this is an off-lease computer. And this is what offices, corporations, oftentimes will lease computers just like they lease cars for the same reason. And then when they go off-lease, they're, whatever their residual value is, they go through refurbish, checking and they're graded. They're graded A, B, C, and the grade it has to do with the condition, the cosmetically of the machine. So typically, grade A and grade B are acceptable. Grade C may have more visible blemishes or dents and things like that. And I'm sure there's some grade that's just parts where the thing doesn't work at all. So there's a lot of different places you can buy refurbished PCs, places like Newegg and Tiger Direct, probably Amazon, and I'll put a link to a site that you can go to. But we're going to talk today about this specific system from JoySystems. Now this is shipped in a box with a very basic keyboard and mouse and a power cable, and it was shrink wrapped. All I've done is I've removed it from the box and I've taken the shrink wrap off. I've never turn this machine on. We're going to turn it on for the first time. We'll see if it has the dual serial key problem, if it has the activation problem. We'll check the health of the hard drive that they have tested, and we'll see if their testing is adequate. We know their support lacks any sort of human interpersonal skills. That much I verified first and foremost, and let's hope they address it. I'm not here to insult them. I'm here to make them aware, who's ever responsible for that department, that these employees need better interpersonal communications with people asking for support. Because when you're asking for support, you're already frustrated that something doesn't work as it should. You're already upset. So if you don't want to deal with upset people, don't get into tech support. Nobody calls you in a cheery mood. It's very rare that they're calling you happy. They're reaching out to you because they're frustrated. They've tried fixing something themselves. They can't figure it out. It's something brand new. They just paid their hard-earned money for it, and now you're going to be short, curt, or rude. Not acceptable, not professional, and not what I expect from a company as big as JoySystems. And everything's documented in email, so it's everything I'm telling is verifiable. They can look back at the way I was spoken to, and just the lack of, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm happy to help you today. Would you please provide us with it?" Instead, I got these sort of bold, "do this," and it was just like being punched in the face, and I didn't like it. And when they did provide the answer I asked for, I had to ask for it twice. They simply provided the answer with no pretext. They just said, "Boom, there's the answer." That wasn't, "Please let me know if you have any more problems," or, if you have any other problems or concerns, please let me know. It was a pleasure helping you. None of that interpersonal skill. It was as if they were doing me a favor, which is very offensive, because when I paid over $500, well, I suppose it was $450 plus the shipping, I didn't consider I was doing them a favor by giving them the money. So anyway, I had a reasonable expectation that this would have been ready for me to use, and I wouldn't have to enter a product key that was supposed to be entered already for me. And that being said, they did ultimately provide the answer. They just didn't do it politely. Now, this has USB 3. When I'm looking at refurbished machines, I'm looking to make sure they have USB 3. And you'll see that for whatever reason, Dell doesn't make the USB ports blue. They're all black. But if you look very, very closely back here, it'd be very hard for me to, let me see if I can zoom in on it. Maybe you'll be able to see. What Dell did is really annoying. Hold on, I don't want to make you sick. Where's my USB ports? Right there they are. Come on, camera. Right there. Okay. Right. Come on. Hold on. Tripod's running in. So do you notice this says SS? SS. These two don't. These two are USB 2. These two are USB 3. And the same thing on the front of the case. The front of the case has 4 USB ports. And 2 of them say SS, and that's how you know they're super speed or USB 3. So that's how you know. But Dell should have gone with the blue. I suppose it's less of an issue in a corporate environment, I don't know. But that's how you can tell. So let's open this panel up. You just grab this handle and pull that off. And set this down. Now here on the back, we've got Gigabit Ethernet. We've got PS2 keyboard and mouse here. It's a 275 watt. This is a standard ATX power supply. There's a 24-pin cable here, a 4-pin cable here, and then separate SATA cables, just like any power supply on any computer that you would build yourself. Only you don't have any extra cables, and that's because of the wattage limitation of the power supply. If you're going to add more hardware to this, like a graphics card, you will need to change this power supply out, but you do need to know that it's a standard everyday ordinary power supply, and the motherboard is a standard everyday ordinary motherboard that can also be swapped out. It's micro ATX. It meets all the standard. All the connectors are in the right place, and there's nothing proprietary about this design, regardless of what anybody else says. Okay. Now, Dell doesn't make all the Optiplex models the same. In fact, there may even be other Optiplex 7010s that don't have the modular components like this. They may be proprietary, but this unit and and I check all that before I buy it. I check to make sure it's modular, and all of this is modular, and it does meet industry specification. Now, I am going to turn this on, and we'll give it some video here, and we'll see what it does. So what I have to do on the back, you'll see it's also got 2 display ports, but no HDMI. And it's got a VGA out and a serial port. So serial ports in a business environment are often used for like receipt printers and things like that. And that's why it's there. It was never designed or intended for a home user, but that doesn't mean a home user can't use it. You just won't have any use for that port. You would have plugged a mouse in there in the 1980s, 1990s. That's how you plugged a mouse in before USB. Just a good old-fashioned serial port. I've noticed a few contributions have come in, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the generosity of some of you. Tony Wallow has contributed $1.99 and says thank you for the PC. Maroof has contributed $2. Can't leave larger super chat. You can use the donate button at tech-vets.com. There's also a link in the video notes below this video to use PayPal as your means of contributing, and thank you. Chris's Tech Channel has contributed $2. It says, I bought a new ultra-wide monitor. I'm jealous, Chris. And Tony contributed $1.99 again. And Mr. Snidely has contributed $5.01. Is this the price is right? Well, thank you, Mr. Snidely, and thank you to Chris's Tech Channel, Maroof, and Tony Wallow for showing your generosity and support of the channel. I am hoping to purchase more of these. I'm on the fence whether or not I want to deal with JoySystems ever again. There are other factory refurbishers. They're not the only one. And it's not everybody makes mistakes, all right? That's really not the issue. The issue is professionals handle the mistakes in a professional way. And I don't feel the way JoySystems handled their mistake was exemplary of being professional. It did not meet my minimum expectations of what the word professional means. And the fact that if this machine also has the same problem, then it's not limited to one mistake, and then it's costing me too much time, the amount of money that I have to spend to chase down their support to get a basic answer without being, talked to rudely. isn't worth it to me to continue to offer their business. However, I do want to buy some other refurbished machines to give to people who are loyal viewers who perhaps are in a budgetary situation where they can't afford something. And we as a community, we support each other. And I want to help those people out as much as I can afford to and give them something that I know will last many years and be very reliable and be so much safer for them to use as far as being victims of identity theft or viruses and whatnot. Christoph Esch has contributed €2 and he says hello from Germany. Christoph, another fantastic, fantastic viewer. Levkar says, I've gave several digits, still not a moderator. Well, let's correct that, Levkar. I'm sorry. Justin Gaskell's contributed $5, and thank you to Justin. And JJMan1982 says, I had a rough experience with JoySystems several years ago. Yeah, the reviews of JoySystems sort of follow that same pattern. Rob Gurley's contributed $5. It's always great to be with you and the chat. Thank you to Rob. He's, of course, a moderator. Torgo says, do you remember in the early 90s when PS2 ports didn't have colors and you had to figure out where to plug a keyboard and mouse? There was no print. Well, the keyboard always went towards the edge of the case. No exceptions. Or if they were stacked one above the other, the keyboard was always on top. It was always never. It was always never. Confusing. It was always that rule. The port closest to the edges for the keyboard, or the port on top if one above the other, that is the keyboard. It's never, I've never seen a computer where that has ever not been the case, but we're well past that now. Nigel's contributed £2. Hey Nigel, thank you so much. I was in Walmart the other day and I was walking through leaving with my cart, full of groceries, and this nice young man stops me with a British accent. And I'm like, oh, you want to check my receipt? He goes, yeah, I just won't check the wall, whatever. Well, I'm not good at the accent. I said, well, where are you from? He goes, Britain. And I was like, well, that's not vague. And, he's looking at the receipt. He's looking at the water. He goes, Westchester. And I went, oh, okay. Now that's better. He says, all right, you're fine. And I said, cheers, mate. And, went on my way. I'm sure he was dumbfounded, And I got to tell you the story. So I'm at Walmart, and this is the third store I had to go to get some bottled water. I went to Costco to get it's such a mundane task to just go and buy some bottled water. And Costco doesn't have any spring water. It's all purified water. In other words, it's tap water, and they run it through a filter, and they put it in a bottle. And that's all they've got, just a wall full of this stuff. Now, they normally sell that and spring water. There's 4 different kinds of water that you can buy, right? There's natural spring water, there's purified water, there's mineral water, there's sparkling water, right? Sparkling water is the bubbles in it. Anyway, there's also distilled water, so I guess that's 5. Might even be 6. So I'm at Walmart and I'm loading up because Walmart is now, I went to Costco, they didn't have any spring water. I went to Target. Target didn't have any. They just had little tiny bottles of spring water. So I went to Walmart and I found it and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get like 3 cases of this. It's just so stupid, it's just water. I'm used to just going to Amazon, click, it shows up at my door. I'm not accustomed to having to go 3 places for just water, and water's too expensive to ship. So anyway, this lady's behind me and she's like waiting patiently as I'm loading and loading and loading one case after the other. She goes, man, I guess this guy likes his water. And I go, well, this is spring water. She goes, well, what's the difference? And I said, well, all that water over there, that just came out of the tap. They just filtered it. I could do that at home. I said, this came from a natural spring. It's been untouched by man. And she goes, oh, well, I want some of that water. I go, it's not that it's harmful, it's just gross. So I said, some people taste the difference, some people don't. I'm a bit of a water snob. So anyway, so I'm going down another aisle. She happens to go down the same aisle. And she goes, I'm getting Jell-O. Is there anything I should know about that? I go, you know how gelatin's made, right? And she goes, well, what do you mean? I go, well, they boil the bones. They boil bones. It's just collagen. That's why vegans, they can't eat gelatin, anything with gelatin, gummy bears, Jell-O, aspirin, like liquid caps and things like that. And she goes, bones like animals? I'm like, yeah, cows, pigs, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's delicious, but it's kind of like a hot dog. You don't want to know how it's made. You shouldn't be asking questions you don't want to know the answers to. This poor lady, she probably never will look at food the same way again. And you know, she's my age, and I just felt really bad. She should have asked me in the vegetable aisle, you know, is this okay? Yeah, you're good. It just cracked me up. Anyway, it was funny. John Craig has contributed £5. He goes, my Go Faster bumper sticker won't stick to my bumper, but it looks good on my rear window. You know, it's much better. I always cringe when I see people put stickers on the paint of their car, because stickers fade, you know, and when you take the sticker off, or if the sticker comes off, you're gonna have this bright spot of paint where the rest of the paint will have faded over time. But if you put stickers on your vehicle on the glass, it's easy to clean, and there's no such stain or remnant left over. So please don't vandalize your car with Go Faster stickers unless you don't care about your paint. Place it on the glass. All the stickers you ever see on any of my vehicles always go on the glass for that reason. Art Awesome has contributed $7.77. He says, good way to start the week. I feel like I just pulled a handle on a slot machine. 777. Thank you, Art Awesome. You art awesome. Art. I said art. I'm in a mood today. Animals crap in the spring water. Do you want to know what's in the tap water that you're drinking? When you flush the toilet, where do you think that goes? I'm just saying, probably not the best topic for discussion. But not harmful. It's not harmful to you. It's just gross. Okay. All right, let's get this thing fired up. So I'll start by, let's give it a little power. Now there is no power switch on the back of this power supply, and as soon as I plugged it in, the fan came on, the light came on, and then it just went right off. These Dells seem to do that for some reason. I have no idea why. I need a keyboard and mouse, which I have right here, and we'll plug it in right up front. Now the link to the system that I purchased is in the video notes below. That's sold out right now, but there's lots of others to choose from, but you can tell basically exactly what I did. I went to the site. I was looking at a price range of around $250 or less. I needed 8 gigs of RAM. I wanted a regular sized tower, not a miniature. When you get the smaller boxes, then you're limited with proprietary hardware from power supplies to everything else. So while they can be more convenient because they're smaller with a smaller footprint, they're also far more limited as far as upgrade and repairability goes. So I wanted something as standard as possible, and I went ahead and I ordered 2 of them. The first one we're done with, and now this is number 2. This is the very first time I'm ever turning it on. So I've got an Ethernet cable we can plug in here, and I've got an adapter that goes from VGA right here to HDMI, and it requires USB power to work. Now, sometime today, I'm hoping the Amazon delivery driver will show up with my DisplayPort to HDMI adapter, which is, you know, more like a little adapter like this versus this messy monstrosity, but it's good to have these when you do what I do. Yvonne Marikels contributed $7 Canadian. It says, you won the jackpot, Carey. Thank you, Yvonne. And is Yvonne a moderator? Yes, very good. So thank you. Perry says, you want to trade places for 2 weeks, you can take New York, I take Phoenix. I have to be honest, if you're upstate New York, I'll take you up on that all day. But if you're in the boroughs, I don't like people. You know, I don't like being crowded in like that. Not even for 2 weeks. But the weather doesn't bother me. But just being jammed in and with no escape, like, I wouldn't say Chicago, maybe Boston, New York, just places where there's just a ton of people in a little tiny spot that gets me. Something in my head just feels trapped, threatened. I will say New York tap water is awesome. You don't even need to drink bottled water if you're in New York. The tap water in New York's water is beautiful. Okay. Little dog hair. So I just checked out this new place for lunch that opened up in a city not too far away called Avondale, and it's called Motor City Coney. And so here in Phoenix, there's a lot of people from Chicago and Detroit that live here. So there's a lot of stuff to appeal to those clientele because there's so many of us living here. And there's a place called, first of all, there's a food truck. There's a Detroit Coney food truck, which is on the other side of town. And then we have a restaurant in the other side of town that's called, gosh, I can't think of what it's called, Detroit. Well, that's embarrassing, I can't think of it. It's a Detroit Coney. So Coney is a hot dog, but the region determines how it's made. A lot of people think of Coney Island, New York, but Coney's, it's arguably that Detroit is the source of where it all started, but who knows what the truth is. It doesn't really matter. But they're done differently in Detroit than they are in, say, Chicago is famous for hot dogs. And so I went to this place that just opened called Motor City Coney, and they have a lot of imported foods from Detroit. Better made potato chips, Verner's Pop, Faygo Pop, stuff that just is hard to find outside of that region. And people are super friendly, and I ordered my hot dogs there, and they said they said it jokingly. They go, "I'm not allowed to put ketchup on your hot dog." And I go, well, that's not a Detroit thing. That's a Chicago thing. And they said, well, that's what the owner told us. And I said, well, me and your owner are going to have a talk, because it's not, a Detroit Coney is however you like it. It's not, there's no rules. A Chicago dog, however, it's almost blasphemy to put ketchup on it. And it's so funny because Heinz, who makes ketchup, you should all have heard of Heinz, trolled Chicago by renaming ketchup Chicago dog sauce. They didn't do this in Detroit. They didn't do this in New York. They did it in Chicago because that's where it's considered blasphemy. When I thought it was amusing that this guy's supposed to be from Detroit, and he's supposed to, he's opening this place that serves Coney's Detroit style, and yet seems to think Chicago rules apply, which is weird. But the food was good, the people are friendly, and I'm happy, of course, to always see, it's on my side of town versus the other side of town. And I wish them the best of luck in their business. But ketchup is not a no-no unless you're a Chicago person. Looks like I missed a contribution here. Planet Cryos has contributed $20. That's a nice contribution, thank you. It says, I had a 2012 HP motherboard. I found the USB 3 internal port for the front I/O was proprietary. Yeah. Tried plugging it into a new case, it didn't work. Yeah. And there's probably some Dells like that too. It just depends which model you buy, and it's something you really want to look for if it's important to you before you make that purchase. Edgar says, how about an autographed picture of you? Why? You know how much value it'll have? Whatever the paper is worth that it's printed on. Chuck says a Detroit-style Coney is a chili dog with chopped onions and shredded cheese. Yes, that is correct. However, a Coney hot dog is different from a regular hot dog. So a regular hot dog place that serves Coneys, it's not unusual for them to serve hot dogs or Coneys. So what I like is a Coney, which is a hot dog with a natural casing, so it has a snap when you bite into it. There's something about that texture. And a company that you're supposed to use if you want to be authentic is a Detroit company called Koegels, Koegels. So Koegel dogs with a natural casing. That's a coney dog. The coney dog isn't the sauce, it's not the cheese, it's not the onion. The coney is the dog itself, that it has a natural casing, and I think it should be all beef. It should be all beef with a natural casing. Now Chicago, they use Vienna beef without a natural casing, so it doesn't have that snap. And it's in Chicago where they feel these rules of not placing ketchup on it are so widely accepted. And there's probably some regions within Michigan, maybe where this guy grew up who owns this restaurant, who left him with that impression. But a proper Detroit coney place knows that a coney is the dog itself. It's not what you put on it. And they often refer to the chili as coney sauce, not chili, in Detroit. So it's very interesting, the regional differences between, let's say, Coney Island, New York, Coney's from Detroit, in Chicago-style hot dogs. And Chicago-style hot dogs are fantastic. You know, you got the pickle and the poppy seed bun. But if you're supposed to be from Detroit and you're supposed to be recreating authentic Detroit, you should know all of this. That's all I'm saying. You should just know. You should just know. It's not a crime. Just little niggles. Niggles. Things that, little troubling niggles. It's a fun word. Okay. What did he say? He said niggles. Niggles. Look it up. All right. Let's try and fire this thing up before we get off topic and talk about food some more. And they did serve Coca-Cola there, so, you know, thumbs up to Motor City Coney on that. And Tony posted a link to the donation site. Thank you, Tony. Tony Vento, not Tony Wallow, but a Tony just the same. I don't even work on Broadway, and look at all the Tonys I have. Nick Poverman says, we got a place in New Jersey called the Windmill that has the hot dogs with the natural casings. I love them with that snap and the cooked on the grill. Yeah. I didn't know you're also a hot dog expert. I'm not a hot dog expert. I'm from Detroit, and I know how I was raised. And Chicago's not far away, and I've been to New York. So I can only share with you my life experience. I'm not like Googling stuff. I'm just sharing with you real life. All right. Jeff says, I'm hungry now, thanks. Was that Coke made with spring water? No, the Coke was probably made with purified water, but they have put additives in it. So what difference does it make? I mean, why would you molest a bottle of spring water with sugar and fructose and, you know, poison? Well, there goes my sponsorship with Coke. All right. Here we go. Sometimes this little USB adapter doesn't fit in here quite right. I have to wiggle it around. Let's see if we get some video. Come on, give me some video. Work with me. There we go. All right. So for $224.99, these also come with Windows 10 Pro, not Windows 10 Home. So Windows 10 Pro, if you were to go to Amazon or Newegg and buy an OEM 64-bit copy of Windows 10 Pro, it's going to set you back about $139.95. So if you subtract $139.95 from the $225 that I paid, then that means that all of this hardware in here cost me that difference. So let's round it and say $140 from $225, that's $85. So I saved, it cost me $85 for 8 gigs of RAM, a Core i5 CPU, the CPU fan, the 275 watt power supply, the case, the 500 gig used hard drive. Well, all of this is used. There's a DVD reader in the front. It's not a recorder or anything like that. And it was a couple of bucks to ship it. It cost me more to ship it than whatever Tiger Direct charged me. Shipping this to California. It cost me about $35. And I didn't double box it. I just shipped it the same way I got it because there's no graphics card to worry about breaking off in here. But yeah, I mean, what a great deal when you consider that you're getting Windows 10 Professional 64-bit at that price included. Would I set up a Hackintosh if I was asked? No. No. If you want to be in a world where all of your freedoms are limited, you can move to North Korea and you can buy Apple products and you will be very happy there. I promote freedom here, and I have no interest in doing anything of that sort of, that's something hobbyists do. I do the kind of work that I get paid by corporations to do, and I'm here to show you on YouTube what it is to be a real technician. And corporations don't pay techs to install liquid coolers, RGB lighting, overclocking, or case window installations, or there's simply no job in a corporate America that you as an IT staff person would exhibit any of that as a skill that would be useful or necessary. So there's too many YouTube channels that are filled with enthusiasts and hobbyists, and that's where you want to be if that's the kind of information you're looking for. If you're looking for reality in corporate America and what it means to be a technician and what the kind of work that real techs do in the real world where they're getting paid, it's in the corporate world. In the corporate world, depending on where you are in IT, if you're in administrative management or desktop support, SQL Server, database, programming, website development, SQL, C++, there's a whole genre of different fields that you can go into, none of which involves liquid cooling, overclocking, RGB lighting, or silly case windows. So there's plenty of that on YouTube, and you throw a stick, and wherever it lands, that'll be the YouTube channel, that'll be fine. For this kind of information, channels like this are few and far between. I'm not the only one who does it, but I'm one of the few, one of the proud. And this is taking a long time, isn't it? This is the first boot. You can see it's the first boot by how long it's taking. It says it's getting ready. Nick Poverman says, why would you ruin good hardware with a Macintosh OS? Macintosh. I still can't stop thinking of that poor lady at Walmart. She's like, I didn't know there was a difference in water. Gelatin's made how? That poor lady. Oh, God, that was funny. She doesn't know who I am. She's just talking to another Walmart shopper. That was probably the last thing she expected was a walking Wikipedia. Ronnie Kravitz joins us. Hey, Ronnie, good to see you in here. Do Americans grill or boil hot dogs? Hot dogs can be grilled, steamed, boiled, just all of the above. Americans do all of the above. Sometimes they'll cut up hot dogs and put it in macaroni and cheese for the kids. I'm just waiting for this thing to start up. So here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to run Crystal Disk Info on as soon as we get this thing up and running. I want to see that it activates. That's one of my main concerns, or see if it has the same problem as the other machine. The reason I suspect it'll have the same problem is I think they have a damaged image, and they're using that image on all the machines. If they're not using an image, that means every machine could potentially be different, and that scares me. So JoySystems should be using a master image. and I believe the master image for this model is damaged. Either way, whether they're using a damaged image or they're doing each one by hand, which means there's no consistency, it's not good. Patrick Grissaw says he bakes his hot dog. So there you go, sure. Dennis Thompson says, hello from Panama. Hey, Dennis, thank you for joining me. Let's make sure Dennis is a moderator in here. I recognize Dennis. Okay, so it wants some information. Here's your standard Windows 10 install setup info. So, United States, yes. It's going to ask me about my keyboard. I want a US keyboard. I don't want to add a secondary language keyboard, so skip next, or skip rather to go next. Perry Dubs likes to use an air fryer. I'm sorry, it's not an air fryer. I know they say it's an air fryer. It's an air baker. It is not a fryer. When you use a fryer, you can take something and dip it in batter and then drop it in the oil. But if you take something and dip it in batter and put it in an air fryer, what you've got is a huge mess that may damage your air fryer. It's an air baker, and they really need to change the labeling on that to reflect what it really is. Okay, here's our Windows 10 license agreement. We'll hit accept on that. Stephen Barber has contributed $5. He says, sometimes when you sysprep it, doesn't always work right. But there have been many times as an IT tech. Well, that's what quality control is for. All right, we're going to set this up for personal use and hit next. Now, I don't want to use a Microsoft account. I never ever use Microsoft accounts. That's not saying you shouldn't, but I don't know how my customer is going to use these machines. So right down here in the bottom left corner, do you see it says offline account? Click on that. It says, you really should sign in with a Microsoft account. No, I shouldn't. Now, it wants a name, so I'm just going to put if I can learn how to type with my, you know what? Instead of having my back to the screen, how about if I pay attention? Whoops. Need to go back. Right up here is how we go back. And the name will be U-S-E-R. U-S-E-R. There, it looks capitalized properly now. Next, I never set a password. That's for the end user to do. So I hit next. Do I want to make Cortana my personal assistant? No. You may choose otherwise. I'm choosing no. And I'm turning off all of these telemetry settings, which can all be individually enabled or disabled by the end user after they receive the computer. I'm defaulting it to the opposite of Microsoft's default, which is how I feel it should be out of the box. I think those telemetry settings should be disabled by default. Nothing should ever opt you in by default. That should be illegal in the United States. As far as I'm concerned, let's hope eventually Congress may pass an act. I doubt it, but it'd be wishful thinking that Congress will pass an act that all opt-ins must have consent. Right now, it's the other way around, which is just wrong because what it does is it's exploiting ignorance. People have no idea that they've opted in for something. It's not clear. It's not full disclosure, and the word is conspicuous, meaning it's not obvious. Sharon Black says, hello, Carey, love your videos. Here's $2 to show my support. I don't see it, but I'll take your word on it, Sharon. And thank you for your kind words. The internet is just filled with people who have nasty things to say to complete strangers, and so to have such friendly, kind, and respectful and thoughtful viewers such as yourselves, honestly, it is a rare thing to have here on the internet, and I'm so glad for you to be a part of it. Chuck Wolf says, instead of air fryer, miniature convection oven would be more accurate. I think food grade hair dryer is a more like accurate, it's more accurate description of the product. Some foods turn out amazing, like little tater tots in an air fryer. Fantastic. I'm trying to think what else I cooked in there. Anything that's like pre-prepared food that's frozen that you would normally put in the oven to heat up is great in the air baker, or they call air fryer. Okay, so we're loaded up here. So let me go full screen so I can see what I'm doing. Let's get back to this JoySystems evaluation. I got to get rid of my camera because I can't see the corner. So you don't need to look at my mug anyway. Do you want the PC discoverable? Sure, why not? And so the slowest part of the system is the hard drive, and I'm just very curious as to the state of this hard drive. What app? Networks. Yeah, that's fine. Still doing that same thing. Well, it's doing that. We don't have to wait. I can shut this down. Let's close that down. And then let's take a look at our activation. So I'll just type right down here. Well, it's still busy, apparently. Let's get rid of this people icon. And let's see if I can go to the control. No, it's still not. Whatever it's doing, it's taking its sweet time. And all of the slowness that we're witnessing is due to the hard drive. And simply changing that hard drive to a solid state drive will turn this machine from a burden to a benefit. Not sure why it's not letting me. Yeah, it's doing something. Let's go to update and security. Let's do that. And let's check for updates. I'm also curious what version of Windows, if we have 1803 or 1809. And it's just not letting me type in the search bar. So I think it's still doing something in the background, but we're going to go ahead and just let this get some updates here. It does show, it looks like 1803 is installed, so that's how old the image is that they're using, since we know that 1809's been available for a few months now. But I'm not going to hammer on them too hard for that, because we don't know how long this was sitting in inventory on a shelf. It is refurbished after all. So, but if this was refurbished, and usually they have a date of refurbishment, and if that date was a month after 1809, then that should have been enough time for them to test and verify and put that on. Because for you, the end user, to spend your money and then have to sit for 2 or 3 hours to update the machine that you just paid money for isn't really good customer service, in my opinion. They should be looking out for you. You know, when you look out for your customers, you look out for yourself as a business owner. You really do, because those are customers that are going to come back again and again and again. Time is money. And any time a customer has the option of screwing something up, if you can avoid that possibility by taking care of it for the customer before you ship the system, you're doing yourself a favor. You really are. It's good business to take care of your customers. And I don't care what business you're in. Let's take a look here. Not missing anything here in the chat. Now, as you recall, on the other system that I had, the other Optiplex, that the BIOS was not set correctly. We weren't in AHCI mode, which is to me a huge oversight on behalf of whoever's responsible for quality control with JoySystems. We'll check and see if this one is also incorrectly set. There's no reason to not click a mouse and make a small adjustment to improve the performance and reliability of the machine. Again, it seems like JoySystems is really dropping the ball in a lot of different areas. The machine isn't packed very well in the box. I'm starting to nitpick at this point because I'll tell you what ends up happening. You get upset over something big, and then all those little tiny annoyances become bigger to just kind of justify that anger. It's like you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. But what kicks all that off is one massive thing that they did. So you're like, okay, these little tiny things, not a big deal, not a big deal, not a big deal. Hold on, now we have a big deal. And while I'm mentioning that big deal, let's talk about everything else you did wrong. That's sort of the way it works for me when I'm reviewing something, and how I can, kind of write something off as excusable and then find it's no longer excusable when there's bigger unexcusable things. Suddenly the small things. Yeah, this may be my adapters. Am I being swatted? No. That can't happen again. Let's just say that was only something that could ever happen once. So. What is in here? Oh, looks like I have an HDMI splitter. Sorry, display port to HDMI adapter. Don't know why they put those little covers on there. I thought this was one piece, but I guess it's just a little cable, which is still better than the mess I'm using, that I'm sure won't have to be wiggled around to make the connection. All right, put that off of there. There we go. Yay, that's a problem I'll never have again. Let's see what else I got. Jordy Tech Channel says hello. Hey, Jordy. All right, I got a router. These were on sale for $17.99 from Amazon. It's a Netgear 8-port gigabit switch. It's not a router. It's an 8-port gigabit Ethernet switch. Oh, these are LED flame lights. This is for the porch. This is a Wi-Fi wall switch. There's one light in the house that I'm going to use this on, so that if I'm away and I forgot to leave a light on for the dogs or something, I can turn it on remotely with my phone. I'm very cautious about using automation because it can get hacked. So if somebody can hack my light and flip it on and off, it's not a big deal. But I use automation moderately. And then this is a 5-port gigabit switch from Fenlink. In this I need The reason I bought this, there's supposed to be 2 Ethernet cables. Okay, they're not, I guess I'm not getting them today. I'm going to dedicate one of my computers to streaming replays of videos over on Twitch. So if you want to watch twitch.tv/Carey Holzman, it'll be a live stream of past content from YouTube. So there's nothing unique over there on Twitch. But it does offer the chat room and such where you can talk with other like-minded individuals and share stories and talk about tech and stuff while my videos are playing. Hopefully 24/7 on Twitch now that I've got the parts to do it. And these lights should be interesting. So, all right, sorry for the interruption, but we're just waiting on updates anyway. Let's see how we're doing here on the updates. Still installing, so that's fine. Yeah, let's see, Tony's contributed to $1.99 again. Hey, Tony, thank you again. Tim Francis says, Mr. Holzman, you've helped me a lot, and I appreciate you very much. Built 3 PCs from your teaching. Nice. SP says, I have a Netgear GS108 that I got cheap, and it works great. Yeah, I agree. The Netgear switches, they're all metal. I mean, they're just, you could drive over them with a car, and I think they'd be just fine. So a little overkill in the engineering. I like that. Rich Robbins says, hey, that's the same switch I bought. I hope it's good, Rich. IoT should be on its own network to prevent hacking your main network. Agreed, but I honestly can't be bothered. Vern Mahoney says, Carey just sent you $20 via TechVets, picking up tip with every visit to the channel. Very nice. Thank you, Vern. Thank you for supporting the channel. Paul Ho says, I have the very same switch. It's very easy to use, Carey. Good to know, Paul. Tony Torgelson says he's got the same switch and it works great. Good. That's great. Wonderful. Taz M35 says hello from Florida. All right, let's see how we're doing on our update. Still installing. I am curious with regards to activation, what its status is. So Windows is activated on this one properly, so we're good to go on that. Back to Windows Update. So it's good to know that again, the other machine had 2 product keys, which is really weird. Depending on which utility you use to pull the product key from Windows, you normally never have to pull a product key from Windows 10 because once the product key is registered with Microsoft, you never have to use it again. Even if you wipe or replace the hard drive and install the operating system clean and don't enter a product key, the minute it goes back on the network, Microsoft servers acknowledge your hardware as being registered before and then automatically activate and assign the product key without you doing a thing. So normally these utilities for pulling to look at what your product key is on Windows 10 are usually completely unnecessary and useless. Because my computer wasn't activating properly and I'm not the one who put the key in, JoySystems is, then I don't know what key they used. And then depending on which utility I used, I pulled up 2 completely distinct and different keys, neither of which was a valid key. And therein lies the problem. There's nothing I could have done by turning on the computer. There's nothing I could have done that could have caused the keys to change or to have duplicate keys. This is an error in how JoySystems set up that particular computer. This one is set up differently. It's weird, but it's good. It's good. Believe me, I don't want to have any more problems. I want it to work like it should. And I want to know which one is it the exception or is it the rule? So right now, it appears to be the first system was an exception. Adib Ali says, I've got the same switch and it's plug and play. I guess I'm late to the game. If we're talking, so there's two different switches, guys. I don't know what you guys are, when you say you have the same switch, this is a switch and this is a switch. They're both switches. This switches lights on and off, and this switches, it doesn't really switch anything. This is a splitter for your network. That's all it says. They should call it a splitter. In my opinion, this is a network splitter that's unmanaged, and that's a switch. But when you say you have the same switch and it's plug and play, I don't know if you're talking about Leviton or you're talking about TP-Link or Netgear. Gabriel wants to know what swatting is. So Gabriel, you go to google.com and you say, what is swatting? Or you can hold up your phone and you can go, hey Google, what is swatting? And read all about it. Jordy's Tech Channel says, Carey, you have inspired me to be a YouTube creator myself, and thanks, my favorite video is the Cosmos 2 build. That's very cool. Thank you, Jordy. Jordy's contributed £5, and that's very much appreciated that you show support. And you know, everybody should, I mean, if you've got a YouTube account, nothing's stopping you from making a YouTube video. Everybody's got these smartphones. You don't have to buy film. You don't have to buy one camera for still photos and another camera for movie, you know, for film, for motion. It's all built into your phone now. So the only thing that's stopping you is you. You have all the tools. You've got the internet. You've got the camera. All you need now is the guts. I was just told that when I said, hey Google, what's swatting? I think that's my phone. What is swatting? It's funny. Hey Google, what is swatting? Maybe my volume's turned down. Hey Google, what is swatting?
According to Wikipedia, swatting is the harassment tactic of deceiving an emergency service into sending a police and emergency service response team to another person's address.
Hey Google, tell me a joke.
I've been working on some material based on facts I've learned online. Wikipedia says there are only 2 ATMs in Antarctica. But you shouldn't use them unless you want your assets frozen.
Oh. Okay. Oh gosh, can you imagine? Could you imagine talking to somebody from 1965 and saying one day you'll be able to carry around the knowledge of humankind from around the world in a device thinner than a calculator that fits in your pocket, and that people will use it for the stupidest reasons imaginable. And just see if they believe you. Ask Google her age. Why not? We're waiting on the computer anyway. Oh, I got to restart it. Let's do the restart first. We can do two things at once here. Hey Google, what is your age? Hey Google. Hey Google. Hey, Google ain't talking to me now. I think I've upset her. And there goes Jimmy. Hey Google. Okay Google. How old are you? Nothing. Nothing. Hey Google. Okay Google. You know what? It's not worth it. Whatever it is, it's no longer worth it. All right. I think I need another Coke. Coke. What do I have? Oh, I got a plastic bottle of Coke. That'll work. That'll work. Hey Google. It's just not listening to me anymore. Okay Google. What is 0 divided by 0?
According to Wikipedia, 0 is both a number and the numerical digit used to represent that number in numerals.
I don't find that funny. Hey Google. How old are you? How old? What is your age? Nothing. Hey Google. Okay Google. It's just not talking to me. What do you think of Siri? What do you think of Siri?
Here is some information for, Hey Google, what do you think of Siri? According to Business Insider, Siri, Apple.com should be able to answer that question, and more. Alexa, iPhone's launch was Friday, June 29, 2007. Google Assistant, iPhone was introduced.
Siri can answer that question better. Okay, thanks. It's like talking to JoySystems support. Only more polite. So what I'm doing right now is just demonstrating exactly what I got for $225. And then when we switch this mechanical drive out to a solid state drive, you'll see what an amazing difference that makes. It is so, it's not minor. It is such a marked improvement in performance that you really need to see it to understand completely the importance of the hard drive and the role it plays in performance. People talk about overclocking and they talk about adding memory, and it's all ideally about performance, and yet no matter how fast you overclock the computer, if you're still running a mechanical hard drive, it's just sort of like putting the cart before the horse. It just doesn't make any sense. Money that's spent on hardware that can be overclocked could have been saved for hardware that isn't overclockable, and use the savings to purchase a solid state drive, and you'll end up with a faster machine than the other way around for the same amount of money, or potentially less. All right, so we're going to just go ahead and let that run. I want to see you. There you are. Ferris Al Manay says, just built a new computer and I'm so excited. That is awesome. Gary, do you taste difference between Coke out of a can versus a glass bottle or a plastic bottle? Yes, absolutely I do. Glass bottle is just the purest, cleanest tasting. Plastic is the nastiest, and cans, as long as you get it out of the can and into a glass, it's pretty good. But if you take it right out of the can, it's too much metal taste because you're literally putting the can into your mouth. So the taste of can. Glass doesn't have a taste. Plastic does. To me. Irving T, speak of the devil, there he is, joins us from France. He's contributed €5. He says, for Linda, quick tips and your live streaming is great as always. Take care. Very kind of you, Irving. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a fan, man. Thank you for enjoying the content for quite some time and hopefully well into the future, Irving. Hey, Carrie, sometimes Windows decides to slow down over a few months' use. It shouldn't. Do you recommend installing Windows every 5 months? No. I didn't even recommend installing Windows every 5 months with Windows 95. Some people that have been around computing for too long think all the stuff that applied back then still applies today. Windows 10, if you just leave it alone, it cleans up after itself. It does everything on its own. You no longer need any tune-up utilities or cleanup utilities. They're no longer necessary. Windows 10 is evolved. The engineers have addressed that situation. If you just leave it alone, you will not experience any slowdown. Depending on what you're doing, like if you're constantly installing drivers or codecs or software, you're shooting yourself in the foot by playing around with stuff like that. If that's the case, then you might want to create a virtual machine and do that kind of stuff in a virtual machine, or create it like a true image or a clone of your drive, and then do whatever you want. And then if you don't like the results, then restore back. But if you make changes you don't like, and then you download other stuff and make changes you don't like, and some stuff may not fully uninstall, you may end up with a machine that's a result of your bad decision making and experimentation that's not related to a Windows problem. And so for most average users, the same Windows 10 install can be used indefinitely, because Windows 10 automatically reinstalls itself twice a year, because Windows releases a major update, which is effectively a whole new operating system. When you hear about this, the 1803 or 1809 or the upcoming 1903, that's a whole new copy of Windows. You think of it as Service Pack 1, Service Pack 2, Service Pack 3. It is effectively reinstalling Windows fresh and clean automatically. If you leave it alone, you get it twice a year, a brand new install. So again, all of this old thinking from the 90s and early 2000s, it simply doesn't apply unless you're using computer hardware and software from that era. So, hope that answers your question. Contribution just came in. This is from Elise, contributed £10. Elise's a moderator. Love your live streams. Keep up the good work. Very kind of you. Thank you. Chuck Wolf says, Fago, rock and rye. That's a very Detroit drink, yes. Torgo Zero says, don't we reinstall Windows every 6 to 8 months? Yeah, you were right ahead of me, Torgo. That's exactly correct. Have you ever had a homemade cherry Coke? It's too sweet. The reason I like Coke over Pepsi is Pepsi's too sweet. So if you're asking me if I would add something to my Coca-Cola to sweeten it, the answer is no. I wonder if I have that voicemail I can play for you guys. Let's see here. Let's see here.
Hey Gary, this is your boy Gondrell. I love a video on YouTube where you cleaning the computer with the leaf blower. I just wanted to get some advice from you. I thought that was a pretty good way to clean the computer, but I have a hole in my neck and I can't use the leaf blower. I just wanted to know if you had any advice for someone who had a hole in their neck. I can't use the leaf blower. I'll get the blow back and just leave this my hole in my neck. I can't use the hole.
So do you still want a YouTube channel? Do you really want to put yourself out there to be a punching bag for people with nothing else better to do? Just something to think about. People said Coke used to have cocaine in it back in the late 70s, in the 1870s. All right, how are we doing here on the, Paul Howe has contributed 10 pounds. He says, been watching you since 2015. I love your work and the banter in chat. Give the dogs a cookie for me. Well, Paul, first let's make you a moderator. Secondly, who wants cookies? Who wants cookies? Where's your brother? Where's your brother? Cookies! You want a cookie? You want a cookie? I can't give you one and not give your brother one. You got to get your brother. Lyle, he knows the sound. The sound of the cookie jar. Lyle! Lyle, you want a cookie? I don't think he wants a cookie. Oh. Do you want a cookie? Come over here. There's one. Get over here. You want a cookie, mister? Come here, monster. Come on. There's my boys. There's my two boys. Sit. Oh, such good boys. Such good boys. Can I have a paw? I just wanted one. What about you? Can I have one? Can I have a paw? Thank you. Good boys. There you go, Paul. And the dogs say, burn, burn, burn. Where was I? Jordy's Tech Channel's contributed 2 pounds. He says, yes, I do want to be on YouTube. 58 subs and 2,000 views. It's a great start, Jordy. All right, let's take a look here on how we're doing. Oh, good, it finished. Let me go back to Windows Update one more time. And we'll do that. And while it's doing that, I've got a flash drive here that has the Crystal Disk Info software, which is a free utility. You can download that just as I have. And let's see, it says we're up to date, but clearly we're still a version behind. If I type in WinVer, I think we're in 1803 here. Yeah, so we're still a whole build behind with this 1803. So we should get 1809, but I'm gonna just not worry about that for right now because it's gonna take a while to install. And I'd rather do that with the solid state drive. So here we've got Crystal Disk Info right here. So I'm gonna copy that over, and then Crystal Disk Mark I'm gonna copy over, and CPU Z I'm going to copy over. Now, let's talk about some of the good things about the computer. First of all, it's very quiet. Fans are all running properly. No cables were disconnected like that brand new HP that I bought. And The RAM is installed correctly. It all is built well and clean. But I'm curious what the state of the drive is. I don't know what JoySystems does to verify the health of these older drives, but they will be one of the first parts to fail on an older machine, which is another reason to replace it. So by looking at Crystal Disk Info, we can check how many hours are on this hard drive, like checking the mileage on a car. And, oops, I was trying to close the other window. And here we go. Just move this out of the way. So what we're looking at is a drive that's got 31,350 hours, which is 1,306 days of use. That's a lot of use. It's been powered on 1,630 times. But, and this is the other thing that's interesting, the other system had a Seagate hard drive. This one has a Western Digital. That's unusual. But it's in good shape, it's healthy, but it's slow. What do I mean by slow? Using Crystal Disk Mark, we can run the 64-bit version of this and take a look at these numbers that we're going to get with the data transfer speeds of reading and writing data sequentially or in different size blocks, randomly, et cetera, et cetera. And then when we change out to a solid state drive, we can check it again, and the difference is massive. It's like leaping forward in years. That's how big a difference it is. When you're looking at speeds of, let's say, right now it shows 123.6, a solid state drive will give us somewhere on this computer, say between 450 to 560. That's how much faster it is. So if you don't know what that means, it's sort of like, think of a car that can travel 123 miles an hour versus an airplane that can travel 535 miles an hour. That's why you can get somewhere faster, because you're going a lot faster, apart from the fact that you don't have to traffic. But the point is, I don't want to lose you in the analogy, because there's going to be people who nitpick the analogies. Please don't nitpick the analogies. They're not there to be exact. They're just to get you the gist of the concept. So if you don't know what those numbers mean, bigger numbers better, bigger numbers faster, and compare it to miles per hour if it makes you feel any better. There's a big difference between 123 miles an hour and 500 miles an hour, right? Especially if you're traveling 2,000 miles. At 123 miles an hour, it's going to take you a certain amount of time to get there, and at 500 miles an hour, it's going to take you a certain amount of time to get there. And when you divide the difference, it's huge. If they change that 2,000 miles to 20,000 miles, the difference becomes even bigger, and the difference in how long it takes to accomplish the task. So whenever you're loading software, or you're browsing the internet and retrieving data, processing that data, your hard drive is a big factor. Many people don't realize the role that it plays. And when Windows starts to run out of RAM, like let's say you've only got 4 gigs of RAM, Windows really needs 8. So it's going to utilize some of your hard drive space as virtual RAM. But RAM is much faster than even a solid state drive. So anytime you're using virtual memory, your system is slowing down even more so. So again, you can fix that by adding more RAM. You're still not going to do as good as you just minimum 8 gigs of RAM in a solid state drive with any hardware, anything at all, laptop, desktop, whatever if you're running Windows 10 specifically. If you're running a different operating system, different rules apply. So we're just here talking about Windows 10 Home and Pro versions. If you don't work in a corporate environment, there's really no advantage to a regular end user to having Pro, but it doesn't hurt you to have it either. Oops. George's YouTube says, greetings from Copenhagen. Welcome in, George. Let's see, got to remember this. The Danish Hold on, I gotta think about this right. The Danish are from Denmark, and the Dutch are from the Netherlands? Do I have that right? Oh, I'm probably making a fool of myself. The Danes is Denmark, right? And the Dutch are from like Holland. Do I have that right? Am I Amsterdam, Dutch, Denmark, Dane? I have it right? Oh my gosh. It's like Walmart all over again with that poor lady. Dutch or Netherlands. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I feel good now. I got it right. I got it right. Yay. Hey, I grew up when there wasn't such a thing as Google. You had to actually know stuff. Remembering it is a whole nother problem. Thank you guys for confirming that. There's our final numbers. I want you to just kind of make a note, especially the two first numbers, the 123.6 and the 121.7. Just kind of, I don't know, write it down or make a note in the video where we're at, because I've got a solid state drive to install, which I have, let's see, I've got a few spares laying around here. Let me grab one. What do I have I can use? That's too small. That's too small. Solid state drive. I guess I can use this old Samsung 840. It's probably can use a new home. And I need an adapter for it. Okay. So I'm going to repeat. I guess what I'm doing is sort of a replay. I'm taking a different approach to what I've already done. This is what I intended to do with the original system that I brought up, which ran into some obstacles, such as the activation issue and the swatting and stuff, which just, because this is all unscripted and everything happens live and real, for real, when things can go sideways like that, it can be very difficult to get back on track and continue. So that system just had to be sort of wrapped up, and I had to just kind of start over again. So just forget whatever you saw in the first one, because I'm going to repeat basically the same things. On the other one, I used a Silicon Power 500 gig drive. Some people have asked me my opinion of Silicon Power. I don't have an opinion on Silicon Power. I bought it, it was on sale, it was cheap. It certainly wasn't the fastest drive. I was a little disappointed with the performance. I was expecting the performance to be better than it was. But at the same time, it wasn't bad enough to take it out and send it back or anything for the price I paid. Is it reliable? I don't know. I mean, it's Tony's now, so Tony in the chat, he'll have to just let me know how that works over time. And that's just one drive. It's hard to ascertain any sort of opinion that's valuable or contains anything worth consideration if you're just dealing with one. You got to deal with hundreds. And then after you deal with hundreds of them, you can get an idea then of reasonably what to expect, and compare that with hundreds of others and compare prices, warranties, and performance. And then if you need support, is support nice? Are they friendly? Are they courteous? Are they responsive? Do they make you wait a long time? Ramek72 has contributed $5. He says, thank you for all your videos and helpful info you provide. Hey, Ramek, thank you for contributing to the channel, and let's add you as a moderator. Carrie, where are Geordies from? Geordies. Well, based on how you're spelling it, it certainly isn't Jordan, right? Jordy's, I would assume Georgian. Not American Georgia, but Russia, Georgia. But I don't know. I don't. It's just a guess. And then somebody's confusing Dutch with Deutsch. Deutsch. Deutsch is not Dutch. Deutsch is German. Dutch is Netherlands. Danes or Danish, that's Denmark. Right? Am I right? Tell me I'm right. All right. I love these adapters. I've talked about these adapters before. Got to change my view. I just realized I can't see. It's bad when you guys are seeing things I'm not seeing. Jordy says Newcastle. I have no idea why a Jordy would be Newcastle, but I will take your word for it. Northeast England is a Geordie. Huh. I've learned something new today. Thank you. Next time I meet somebody from Newcastle, I'll say, so you're a Geordie? And they'll say, how could you possibly know that? And I'll be like, it's just who I am, man. I do like Newcastle ale. I do admit. That's the only brown ale I like. So anyway, let's talk about this adapter. There are plenty of 2.5 inch to 3.5 inch adapters that you can buy when you have a case. And this is typical of major manufacturers like Dell and HP, et cetera, where they don't offer you the type of options that a typical case that an end user would buy offers. And so oftentimes just converting the size of the drive isn't enough. And I've demonstrated this when I had a Dell Alienware, I think it was an R51 in here, where it was absolutely critical that the mounting holes on the adapter and the location of the SATA ports matched exactly a 3.5 inch hard drive. And it's been very difficult to find a proper 2.5 inch to 3.5 inch adapter that does anything more than just give you, that added width from a 2.5 inch solid state drive to a 3.5 inch hard drive. So yes, you can use a laptop drive in a desktop computer. In fact, all solid state drives these days are 2.5 inch laptop drives. And most cases these days have a separate mounting place for those. But these massive brand manufacturers, that's not the right word, but companies like Dell and HP, the pre-built machines that you buy, they don't give you anything more than what they're selling you. They don't give you more power than you need. They don't give you more upgradability than what you're paying for. They're trying to hit that bottom line dollar price, and that's exactly what you're getting, exactly what you're paying for. So you'll have to spend, $10 extra to buy the proper adapter if you want to. It doesn't really matter if the drive is mounted or not, to be honest. It's solid state. It doesn't care. You just don't want it to ground out against anything, and you don't want it to break free and disconnect itself. So by using the proper adapter, those concerns go away and you have peace of mind. And this thing is metal. This is heavy duty. I'm sure I could hit somebody upside the head with this and it's not going to warp it or bend it. It is solid metal. And it's good quality. So again, you're getting what you pay for. There are cheaper adapters, but they don't locate the holes where they're supposed to be, nor do they locate the SATA ports in the same place, which with this case really doesn't matter with regards to where this is. But on the Alienware build that I did, if you look up the Dell Alienware system that I repaired, there was no way to put a 2.5 inch drive in without this specific adapter, or this adapter is made and offered by other companies like I think Sabrent offers the same. All they did is change the name. It's the same thing. So that's a little bit later. What I want to do now is simply clone the operating system over to the solid state drive. And so we're going to start by simply testing how long this takes to boot. All right. So right now, you've witnessed live what our performance numbers are of the drive. So I'm going to close that. And I'll tell you, let's look at CPU-Z real quick, and let's take a look at the hardware that's installed for any remaining questions regarding what I got for $225. Again, free utility you can download, you can run it on your machine, and this gives us all kinds of information. For example, this is an Intel Core i5-3570 Ivy bridge. It's currently running at 1600 megahertz because it ramps up as needed to keep the power usage and heat down. Caches are built into the chip itself, so there's really no useful information here. It tells us the main board, the model of the main board, which is from Dell, and the version of BIOS, which is fairly recent, 6 or 7 months ago, A29. I have to double check to see if that's the most recent or not. We look over at memory, we can see we've got DDR3 memory totaling 8 gigabytes of RAM in dual channel mode. If the RAM was installed in the wrong sockets, then it would be single channel potentially. And then over SPD, the serial presence device is what exists on the RAM chips, so the motherboard BIOS can automatically configure to match. It shows there are 4 memory sockets. Slot 1 is empty. Slot 2 shows us all the detail of the RAM installed in slot 2. Slot 3 should be empty, which it is, and slot 4 should match all the specs on slot 2. They should be a matching pair of memory. Who makes it, what the speed, and JEDEC information is all contained in there, which is your CAS, latency, voltage, blah, blah, blah. And over here, we've got graphics. We're using the built-in graphics built into the CPU. And then there's some benchmark thing here, which is, I don't find it to be useful. And that's all the information. And we've already looked at the hard drive. We've already determined how many hours are on that, how many times it's been powered on, and that it is fine. There's nothing wrong with it other than it's slow, and it'll most likely statistically be the first part to fail. So the final thing that we're going to check is to just shut the machine off all the way, power it completely down, and then I'm going to turn it back on and see how long it takes to get to the desktop. Once we clone the hard drive over to a solid state drive, we'll see how long it takes to boot. It should be a difference of over 2 minutes to under 22 seconds. That's what we should see here. All right, so everything's off. The fans, if I go full screen here, you can see the fans are not turning. This machine is off. So here we go, hitting the power button, and we'll switch you back over to that video input. And let's see what the boot time is on this. So let's wait till we get to the desktop. As you can see, this is why I'm waiting. This is why it's included in the boot up time. It's not enough to just see the login happening. The amount of time it takes to log in is also very dependent on the performance of the storage, whether that's a hard drive or a solid state drive. It makes a big difference. And that's it. So once the desktop appears, we can stop the clock, even though there still may be other things. Yeah, you can see the little circle is still going on there, but we should be able to use the system, yeah. I like to I don't like anything being hidden from me down here in the right corner, so I always go to the settings. And you have to activate Windows to do this. But I like to go down here and it says select which icons appear on the taskbar, and I click on that and there's a little on off. I always want all of this icons. I don't want anything hidden from me. I want to see everything running on the system at all times, because that's the kind of guy I am. And there's a yellow exclamation point about signing into Microsoft that I want to dismiss because I don't like yellow exclamation points. I want to see everything is happy and healthy. I'm also not going to be using Microsoft Cloud. I can disable that going into the task manager, but because this isn't my computer and it's going to a customer may need that. So I'm not disabling it because I don't know who this is going to yet. One of you lucky viewers who has an older machine, who was on a tight budget, who is determined to be worthy by the viewers, other viewers, will decide who gets this machine. just so you know. It's going to be given away to one of you. And we just want to make sure the person who gets it is someone that really has an older machine and is really on a budget, and they're not just out being greedy, but really would benefit from having it and would make their life a little more enjoyable and a little safer. And we'll get to that here in a minute. So anyway, so anybody got the boot up time, would you say 58 seconds, 51 seconds, or somewhere around a minute, somewhere around the minute. Kenny wants me to check the device manager. Okay, we can do that real quick. One of the things I like to do is I like to go to personalize by right-clicking on the desktop and selecting personalize. And over on the left, I choose themes, and then over on the right, I choose desktop icon settings. And what I like to do is add the My Computer icon, or as Windows 10 simply calls it, computer, to the desktop. The reason I like to do that, and if I right-click and sort by name, I have to do it again because it just sorted it backwards, so now it sorts it the other way. Now I can right-click on this icon and go to Properties and bring up that device manager anytime in the future. And we can look in here to make sure that everything is loaded properly and there's no exclamation points or errors sitting in the device manager, so that the computer is in fact running exactly the way it's supposed to run. And there's everything in there with no errors, which is fantastic. It's really good. Now, we could sort of hack into this a little bit to see what sort of hardware and things have been plugged into it by showing hidden devices. It's just a waste of time. It might be interesting that you think you're uncovering some hidden stuff, but it's hidden for a reason. It's because it's not important. Anyway, so that's that. And I'm going to shut this down. And let's switch over to the main camera again. Now, I've got my Acronis Trimage bootable USB stick right here. This is Acronis 2019. And I'm going to just plug it into any port here in the back. I guess I can remove my utilities flash drive because we're done with that for a while. But the Acronis one, again, in any USB port is fine. I'm going to grab my solid state drive, and so I want to copy all of the contents off this mechanical drive onto this drive. Now, if I want to, I can use a simple $10 adapter. Sometimes you can even find them on sale for $5 at Amazon. And this is going to convert any 2.5-inch drive to USB, and it'll function just like a flash drive, just like that. And this connector, you don't need any enclosure. If you want to buy a fancy enclosure, you can spend money for that if you want to. But the beauty of this is it's in its simplicity. It's something that can be used with multiple drives. One cable can be used with multiple drives one at a time. If you put it in an enclosure, it's kind of hard to switch the drives. And just to give you an idea, and I'm not recommending you do this, but this is how strongly this cable is attached. I know you're just waiting for that to fly off, but it isn't. It's not gonna fly off of there. It's very secure. There's no breakable parts in here as far as, I guess you could break it in half physically, but you could throw it on the ground, you could throw it off the roof. There's no moving parts. It's just a circuit board, guys. So the idea of protecting it, it's already protected. It's already in an enclosure. So to put the enclosure in an enclosure, I mean, if you're that kind of person that does that, go right ahead, but it's not necessary technically. And we just spin this around and spin it around. And you're just waiting for it to fly off, aren't you? You're just waiting. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. Okay, this is gonna run a lot slower. To transfer the data from here through USB will take longer because USB is not as fast. So if I want to do this quickly, because I don't know, let's say, for example, I'm on a live video with 735 people watching, I can just borrow the power and SATA cable off of the DVD drive because I don't need it right now, and just use them on the solid state drive here instead. And I don't have to mount the drive. I don't have to do anything other than make sure that the drive isn't touching anything. It can float in here as long as it's not going to interfere with the operation of the fan, and it's not going to short out anything metal, or, you know, I don't want it bumping up against the RAM. You know, this is not how I'm going to permanently keep it. And obviously, you've got to be careful. If you're somebody who's not careful, then maybe you might want to ask somebody to do this for you. And all I want to do is just kind of keep this up and out of the way. There, so it's not touching anything. I'm not touching you. All right, flash drive is plugged in, so now when I turn it on, I want it to boot from the flash drive. So to do that, I think people were telling me F12 on a Dell will do that. So let's do F12. So we'll bring up the system here real quick. And F12, and let's go over to that input. F12. Anything? Yes, F12 did work. And I want the USB storage device, preferably UEFI. And I'm going to guess that UEFI has not been enabled on this BIOS, but let's just see what happens. Number 1 is the first option I want. That's for Acronis Trimage, the 64-bit version. Thank you for the tip on F12, which is how I do it on Asus and Gigabit boards. It's good to see Dell is following the sort of unspoken industry standard, if you will. Okay. I want to do a clone. So it's not a backup or recovery, it's a clone. So we go to Tools, Clone Disk, Automatic, and Next. Source drive. Is the source my USB? No, that's my Acronis I just booted from. So disk 3 will never ever be selected in this instance. So it's disk 1 or disk 2. Well, disk 1 is the Western Digital. WDC stands for Western Digital Corporation. If it started with ST, that would be Seagate. And it wants to know the source. What is it that I want to clone? I want to clone the Western Digital drive. Next. It's going to say, where do you want to clone it? Where do you want to clone the Western Digital drive? So the Western Digital drive is called the source. And where we want to clone it to would be the target or destination drive. I am not going to clone it to my USB stick. It's not big enough. That's only a 2 gig USB stick. So that only leaves disk 2, which is the Samsung 500 gig drive that I've just plugged in that's hanging there. And that'll appear as an option in just a moment. Bingo. So again, disk 3 is the Acronis disk that's only 2 gigs. See, it says 1.84 gigabytes. It's not big enough. Disk 2 says it's a Samsung SSD 840. That is the solid state drive. And it's currently blank. You see, it's all unallocated. So I hit next. So it's going to say, all right, here's the deal. You want a source disk of disk 1 to clone over to target disk 2. Disk 2 is currently blank, but when we're done, it's going to have 2 partitions that look like this. Do you want to proceed? Yes, proceed, and you'll see how fast this is. This is faster than installing Windows. I don't have to install drivers. I don't have to reactivate. Every single setting is being cloned, duplicated, copied, mirrored, imaged. How many more words do you want? It's exactly the same, identical, symmetrical. It is in every single bit of data that is on that mechanical drive is being moved to that solid state drive. So if that thing is rife with viruses, I'm copying them. If I got a bunch of temp files, I'm copying those too. All my programs, all my software, all being copied. So if you had Quicken, QuickBooks, Microsoft Office, all your configurations, customizations, wallpapers, music, movies, everything. Everything is being moved. So make sure before you do this that you've removed anything unnecessary before you get started, or you're going to waste a lot of time copying stuff you don't need. Some software, especially things from Intuit like QuickBooks and Quicken, don't like it when you clone them and will require a reactivation. The software is still installed, but it's like, hey, wait a minute, it looks like you're trying to pirate me. And that's the way Intuit treats their customers. They treat all their customers as though they're thieves. And then you have to call Intuit and explain to them that you've just cloned, and they'll reactivate you. But nobody else can help you with that but Intuit. I use Intuit as an example because it's one of the most common calls I get from the effects of cloning. It's not alone. Some other software will cause reactivation. Most software won't. So for example, if I had Cyberlink Power Director 17 activated and I clone it, it stays activated after the clone. Not all software works that way, but it will all remain installed. You cannot copy software. You can't take a piece of software that's installed on this computer and copy that software to another computer. That's what an installation is for. But when you clone and you grab the whole operating system and registry and everything, then you're moving all the software over. But it may break activation on some software that a phone call will be required to resolve. Hope that's clear. And you'll see this is a pretty quick process. It says it's got under a minute left, but it's a pretty empty hard drive. I mean, basically, it's a brand new machine with a clean install of Windows 10. We just installed all the updates, minus the latest 1809 version of Windows 10. But I don't want to do that big update on the hard drive because it'll take much longer. So I'll do this clone to the solid state drive first, then I'll do the upgrade to 1809 because it won't take anywhere near as long. And of course, we're going to check our boot time. I anticipate a boot time of 20 seconds or so when we're done. We'll see how close I am to that mark. Does it format the source drive and remove anything that's there? Yes, it does. It is going to format and partition the drive, whatever it takes to be an exact mirror. So if the original drive has 8 partitions on it, then the source drive also has 8 partitions on it. If the target drive already had data on it, then Acronis would warn us. We'd get a warning that says, look, what you're about to do is irreversible. Are you absolutely certain that that's the drive you want to clone to? Because there's no going backwards. You can't undo this. You can't put the data back unless you have a backup of it. It is whatever existing partitions were on the target drive are irrelevant. It treats, once you give Acronis approval and you say yes, it's going to wipe that drive and recreate all the partitions and all the formats and even resize the partitions for you. So if the drive sizes are different, if you're going from big to small or small to big, Acronis takes care of all that for you when I selected automatic. Remember when I said automatic? That's why I did that. So we're done. At this point now, there's nothing I have to click on. It's finished. So I can hold the power button in until the machine shuts off. It takes about 10 seconds. There it is. I'm going to wait for the fans to stop spinning, and let me get you guys back over on the main camera so you see there's nothing up my sleeves. And I'm going to remove the SATA and data cable from the solid state drive. Yeah. And we now have a duplication of this onto this. And I'm going to plug these back in where they were so that the DVD drive will function again. We didn't need the DVD drive for this process, so that's why I just borrowed the cables, and I can't see anything in there. So let me grab a flashlight really quickly, and there we go. Just plug these cables back in. It helps if you plug it in the right direction. Cables only go in one direction. And the same thing with the SATA cable. Okay. And just for testing, I'm not going to install the solid state drive. I'm just going to take the power and data off the hard drive, and I'm going to take the hard drive out. All right, and I'm going to take the Acronis flash drive out because we are done with that Acronis tool. And I'm simply going to plug in data, which goes in backwards for some reason. Isn't that weird? It goes on upside down. And power. Doesn't matter which of the power cables you use, they're all the same, so if it fits, you're good to go. Once again, I'm not done with the system. I'm not going to ship it like that, but that's as far as I need to go right now to turn it back on and see what the performance difference is. Okay, so let's do that now. Get your stopwatches ready. Let me flip back over to the input, the dual input here. And I'm going to turn it on go. I'm done with that flash drive, and I'm done with this flash drive. We'll put the hard drive over here. I think I'm done with this flashlight. Oh, that's not good. So that usually means it didn't find anything to boot to. It's trying to boot from the network. So I might have a loose cable, or, well, hold on a minute. Let me turn it back off. Not a good start. But this is why I don't mount anything yet. This is exactly why. So let me just double check all my cables. Let's make sure that I haven't pulled anything out by mistake, that everything's seated properly. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Yep. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the BIOS and I want to check and make sure that the BIOS is set correctly, that it sees this drive. So to do that, I'm going to press F2 with the Dell screen, and we're going to check those BIOS settings real quick. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of my picture because it's blocking my view. And let's take a look at what we got in here. Boot sequence. I'm not going to boot from that or that. I'm just going to turn that off. It is in legacy mode instead of UEFI, which really bothers me. I don't know, again, why JoySystems does this. It's not boosting any confidence in their technical ability to leave that like that. As far as everything else goes, we should be square here with regards to the COM port can be disabled or enabled. No one's going to use that. SATA operation should be AHCI. And this may cause us some difficulty in booting, but that's okay. I don't know, we could enable smart reporting, it doesn't matter. That's the self-monitoring and reporting technology. Typically something you don't have to worry about on a solid state drive, and something that doesn't really matter if you have backups. The built-in video display information is an auto, which is fine. Secure boot hopefully is disabled. Yeah, good. And performance, it's all good. Good, good. Oh, I don't know why that's turned off. All right, let's hit apply. Hopefully all those changes just took effect. And then let's restart the machine. See if it boots, or at least tries to boot this time. That's better. Much better. I don't know, has anybody started their stopwatch when I did that? Because, let's see what happens. Windows may come up with an error because of the AHCI mode, but we'll find out here in a moment. Yeah, okay, so inaccessible boot device, this occurs because we switched to AHCI mode. But the great thing about Windows 10, and I've talked about this before as well, Windows 10 is self-healing for a lot of errors. So when people say the PC industry is dead, those are Windows techs. Those are techs that aren't what I consider to be real techs. The idea of a customer calling you with a Windows-related issue, like blue screens and crashes, doesn't happen frequently in Windows 10, where Windows 10 doesn't self-correct. So those people are like, hey, I don't have any job anymore, so the tech industry's dead. So they're not hardware techs, they're Windows techs. And so yes, if you're a Windows tech, you should probably look for other work, because Windows 10 and every operating system coming forward into the future will only get better and better with regards to that. Now, the computer is still running, but I'm not getting any signal to the monitor for some reason, as you can see here. Fans are spinning, but the computer continues to say, well, the video capture card is saying there's no signal. And if I turn this camera on, you can just see me just to make sure that you're watching a live feed. And I'm not sure why, but Windows should have just restarted itself here. And I'm going to just turn this off by unplugging it and then let it sit for a minute and then plug it back in. There we go. Now, what we want Windows to do is to boot into safe mode, which I might have just missed that opportunity to do that. By letting Windows boot into safe mode, it will automatically load the AHCI driver all on its own, and then when we restart Windows again, Windows works from that point forward in AHCI mode. That's how smart Windows 10 is at self-healing, and that's why those calls for help with regards to the Windows OS have dramatically decreased since Windows 10. However, when you're dealing with other network administration issues, here we go. Let me turn this off and do this again. You're dealing with power supplies failing, hard drives failing, backups being made, desktops being secure. That there's more work than you can shake a stick at. So don't believe anybody who tells you the tech industry is dead. It's not. Those are people, as best as I can tell, that just used to fix Windows problems. And that's the limit of their skill. And apparently they don't know how to do anything else and have therefore claimed that they have to change careers. That's the only thing I can imagine that's justifying this weird confusion that seems to be occurring. And F8 did not get me in safe mode. This is probably going to crash on me again. You know what? I'm just going to shut it off. And let's turn it back on one more time. Come on, here we go. Now, ideally, Windows would have been installed from scratch with the HCI enabled and UEFI. So it's weird to me that, JoySystems brags about, how well they do a job of ensuring everything's set correctly when it isn't set correctly. And how would the average end user know the difference, right? If it works, it works. But it'll work better when it's set correctly. And if you don't know the difference, then ignorance is bliss. I expect the people at JoySystems to know better. I think it's a very reasonable expectation to expect that the machines have been optimized properly with the operating system they put on. And they didn't do that. And I'm going to turn this back off one more time. Oh, I waited too long. I was trying to get to it before it crashed. I'll try holding down the shift key. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. Andy Reyes has contributed $20. He says, Carey, I love your show. So far, I've built 3 systems following your advice. I love what you are doing, giving back. Well, thank you, Andy. And, it's because of viewers like you who contribute to the channel that make this and more possible, honestly. It ain't coming from YouTube, I'll tell you that. YouTube takes a lot. So thank you for supporting the channel. I'm just holding down shift. I don't see safe mode loading here, but I'm just going to wait. Lloyd says F4. Should be F8. I'm pressing F4. I don't think F4 is going to work though. But I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, F4 didn't work. Let's try this. Let's just pull the power plug. Turn it back on. This cable's really loose. I should try that DisplayPort cable now that I've got it, see if it works. Because this has to be wiggled just so to make that connection, so I can get some video. As you can see, there it goes. I'm gonna cut the power one more time. And then let's plug that back in. And I think I'll do it a third time. Right there. So hopefully now Windows 10 shows its intelligence and says, I've just tried booting 3 times and I can't seem to get there, and it should start safe mode automatically, with the keyword being should. And I also want to try this DisplayPort adapter out here in just a moment. So I'm going to give it one more chance to do the right thing, and then I'm going to force it to do the right thing. But Windows generally does a pretty good job at this. The only boot device this has is the SSD. There's nothing else for it to boot from, so there's no question or doubt that it's booting from the SSD. It's just an issue right now of getting the machine into safe mode. That's where I'm struggling. So what I'm going to do, let's switch it back over to the main feed momentarily here. I'm going to, once again, I'm going to pull the plug, and I want to just get rid of this adapter, because this adapter is great to have if you have to use it, but it's the worst adapter I've got. Let's go to HDMI and let's go DisplayPort. This is the very first time in my life using DisplayPort. Is this going to be a good experience or a bad one? I don't know. I expect it to work a lot like HDMI. Probably have to plug power back in though, right, Carrie? I'm guessing it's probably still going to need power. There we go. Let's go back over to that mode and see if we get video. Hello. Oh, it's off. So no one doesn't have to have power. You have to turn it on. Hey, that's already better. F12, it says boot options. Preparing one-time boot menu. Very good. Legacy boot, UEFI boot, other options. Diagnostics, no. BIOS setup, no. What if we do a legacy boot to the 840? No, because we did it in UEFI. Let's do F12. Again. Windows Boot Manager. So it's still showing legacy boot for the solid state drive. We go to the Windows Boot Manager. That's where it's going to start loading from the Samsung. So I want to emphasize this is not related to the clone, but is related to enabling AHCI and the UEFI BIOS, which is again consistently set up wrong with JoySystems. They're not properly configuring the systems, and whatever boilerplate nonsense excuse they have is nonsense. There's no excuse for this. There's absolutely no excuse other than ignorance. And unless they come back and say, we made a mistake, I'm not giving them any respect on that. But I will give them respect if they admit it. We'll see. Corporations don't like to admit anything that they did. So I've come to just expect boilerplate responses that are meaningless and what's the word, disingenuous. But it would be refreshing for somebody from JoySystems to go, you made a good point, and we're going to adjust our training to accommodate that, to fix that problem. But I suspect I won't hear anything from them at all. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, so we're right back to this, just, you know, the fans are all running and nothing else is happening, so we'll turn it back off. Okay, we're off. Let's fire it back up. I will find another technique for this. I don't do this very often, but it seems lately I've had to do it 3 times in the last couple of weeks. And it's been probably a year or 2 since I've had this problem, because I'm typically dealing with new hardware. But when you deal with older stuff that wasn't configured right, and then the refurbisher didn't configure it right when they had a chance, it falls into my lap, and it will not leave my lap until it's correct. And so there's probably a boot tool I can use. I think the only bootable Windows 10 I have is 1809, and I don't think the repair on 1809 is going to work on 1803. So I'm going to try F12 one more time. Now, of course, if I want to put the BIOS back the way it was and put the old slow hard drive back in, it's always an option for me. Of course, it'll work just like it worked before. Nothing by cloning it altered or changed anything. But going into the BIOS and changing it there, that's what's causing this particular boot issue. And so that's fine. It's just emphasizing how big of a problem this really is from the refurbisher, that as long as you stay ignorant about it, means that you won't know any better. And you'll run a computer that's running slower and perhaps less securely due to your lack of information or education. Let's go to diagnostics. I don't think diagnostics is going to fix it. Yeah, this is bringing up a Dell tool. It's not good. I don't want that. It's interesting though. And it's running some tests already. Wow. That's interesting, isn't it? Testing VRAM. I don't want to sit here all day while it does all this, doing a processor fan test, motherboard fan test, blah, blah, blah. This is all a waste of time. So I'm just going to shut this back off. Kevin says the 1809 will work. Well, let's give it a shot. I don't think it will, but, you know, again, it doesn't really matter what anybody says until you test it yourself. It seems like a reasonable thing to test. So I'm going to plug this into one of my USB 3 ports here, the super speed ports. Let's turn it on and we'll direct it with F12 to load up through the USB Windows 10 installation media that I have. So we want Windows, no, UEFI SanDisk Extreme. Yes, good point about the partitions. When you see that there was only 2 partitions on the hard drive, that's how you know it was in legacy mode and not in UEFI mode. That's 100% true. When you're in UEFI mode, you'll see 4 partitions made by Windows 10 during the installation. And Windows will start creating an 8 gig partition just for updates. Just so you know, that's what's coming. From Windows 10 in April, you'll see a partition that will be 8 gigs just for Windows updates, because what's happening is people aren't leaving enough free space and it's causing Windows updates to fail, and it's leaving those people vulnerable to viruses and security exploits, and may even cause Windows to crash. So Microsoft is like, all right, people, if you're going to be this foolish, we're going to reserve space for you so that you're safer and protected from yourself. And I applaud Microsoft for doing that. I think it's a great idea. All right, let's see. Windows setup. We'll go next. Repair. Let's see. What do we want? Troubleshoot. startup repair isn't going to do it. I need safe mode. I don't see the option to get in there. Johnny ICT has an interesting tip that might work. Nope. You know what? I'll just copy this. Let's see. So we had this discussion before, and it looks like we're sort of replaying it again. And I'm going to just do something here to make a point. You can see that doesn't work. Let's try it without that. Sometimes I get really tired of trying to explain things, and so I'll just do it to demonstrate. So the concept here is the same. People are recommending that I type in bcdedit/set and then default in braces. And you're seeing me do that, and you'll see it just doesn't work like that. So at this point, I'm just humoring you guys. I don't expect any of this to work. That did work. Okay. And let's turn off the PC and let's see if that functions. That's from that tip. Who'd that come from? That just came from Tiomer Rekovic. I think I'm not sure how to say his name. Now let's boot up and see if it starts in safe mode now. If it does, I'll have to make a note of that command. I should have unplugged that flash drive. I think Jacksta, I agree with Jacksta here that to go back into, reset the BIOS to get back into Windows, select safe mode in Windows, and then change the BIOS and let safe mode begin. So, but you can see it did not get us into safe mode. So what I'm going to do now, rather than get upset at people who won't listen, is I'm just going to demonstrate why you... Well, I'm just going to, if you say to type it in, I'm typing it in, right? Because maybe then you'll believe me. I appreciate the intentions are there, but I've never ever in my career utilized a command like that to get into safe mode. But Windows 10 safe mode is a bit different, and I know there's another way to do it, and my mind is just blanking out as it did last time. I'm trying to remember how I used to do it. Let's go back to the flash drive. And then we're going to go back to the repair one more time. And we'll go back to the command prompt. Yes, I've been holding the shift key down. It's not working, guys. That only works when you're in Windows and you're choosing restart from within Windows. If you hold down the shift key, it'll restart in safe mode. Holding the shift key down on cold boot has never ever worked to get into safe mode on Windows 10. Only once you're in Windows 10, selecting restart while holding the shift key down. So you guys have a massive misunderstanding. Many of you have a misunderstanding of how that works. Besides the fact you just watched me do it. I mean, presumably you're watching. All right, let's go next, and let's go back to repair. And I really wish Microsoft would add an option for safe mode under troubleshoot. There should be, you know, this option to safe mode, and unfortunately, it isn't here. And I do hope that they consider adding that in a future version of Windows 10. Though I've not heard anything that would confirm that. So we can do startup repair, but it's not going to find anything wrong. But I'll just do it anyway, just to show you. Yeah. Couldn't repair, doesn't see anything wrong. Advanced. Yeah. We're right back to square one again. So there's another option here to bring up the advanced menu. Hold a minute, wait a minute. Might have missed something. Let's go back. Troubleshoot. So we're under advanced options under troubleshoot right here. And there's no startup settings, as you can see, that just doesn't exist. Somebody's suggesting I go to advanced options, which I am in advanced options. And there is no option for that. Troubleshoot. So we can get to the command prompt and perhaps force a menu with the BCD edit command, maybe force, it looked like Tomer there is just making stuff up at this point. He keeps changing his answer over and over and over again, but this one looks like it might work. So let's give it a shot. Let's do BCD edit /set. Not happening. So this is why, so this is the difference between a professional and a hobbyist. So what you guys are doing is demonstrating what a hobbyist does in that it looks like you're using Google and not experience, and you're just guessing at what you think the answer is. And so when I'm being paid by a client by the hour, my guessing has to come from experience, not from Google, at least as much as possible. I mean, I don't know everything, but I also don't go to Google for everything. I only go to Google as a last-ditch effort to common sense. And these arcane commands in DOS, there's probably one to get me into safe mode, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head, and I would have to Google it, but I would prefer to not guess, or to make a more educated guess based on experience than on Google. Or you can sit here all day just typing away at ritualizing a fix rather than actually understanding the fix. So it doesn't mean that oh, they're telling me I didn't use the braces right. Okay, let me try again. Use brackets and not braces. Is that what you're saying? Let's do it again. Because the command that's being offered, it looks right to me, but I've never been able to get into safe mode this way before. Let's try this. And if you guys look in the chat, look at you can't even agree amongst yourselves, right? No two of you are really saying the same thing, and yet you all want to be heard. And I can't tell who's offering the advice from experience or not. So I have to treat all of you the same. But let me just go back and let me redo that same thing again with braces. My screen is really small, so I may have used brackets instead of braces. So let me just change this back to... Keyboard's not working now. Okay, there it is. See, what's happening is I keep losing my screen. It's a little confusing. All right, this one here from, this actually looks like the right command now that I see it. From leak to CPIS, which this looks really familiar to me. I got a good feeling about this one. This looks right. It's so hard to remember some of this stuff. Nope, that's not the one. See, you guys are confusing me now. I like that. That looks good. Let's see if it works. All right, let's boot her up. See if we get a menu this time. That'd be nice. So I just choose an operating system to specify, press F8. Hey, look at that. Number 4 is enabled safe mode. There we go. This is much better. Now we're in safe mode, so Windows 10 should automatically change to AHCI mode on its own. And of course, we're not going to have any drivers loaded, so your screen's not going to look right. You're not going to have any wallpaper because you're in safe mode, which is indicated in every corner of the screen. I've had a lot of people call me with concern that everything looks wrong and they can't quite put their finger on it because they're in safe mode. Now, simply restarting is all I should have to do, and it should just self-correct. Let's see what happens now. But that is a great command to know. And of course, now it's going to come up every time that way, but that's okay for right now. Let's just see if it boots. Still booting in safe mode. So now we have to go back into the command prompt, and we have to tell it to boot normally again. And I believe it's, again, been a long time, but I believe we just go to command with administrator access. and we'll type BCD edit, and we want to clear out. Oh, I think somebody even typed it in the chat. We want to clear out. Trying to remember how to do that. Not sure if this is it or not. Maybe? Is that going to clear it? I can't remember. Once I have this figured out, I should just make a little note to myself. So if I'm going to order more of these, I think I'm going to go to a different refurbisher. I'm going to try somebody other than JoySystems. But it would be good to just have this written down, because it does seem to create a little bit of tension between myself and the audience, that I'm trying to fix something and they're trying to give me really bad advice, and it gets me really upset. That looks better. I'll fix that boot menu here in just a moment. So everything runs correctly. This is exactly the way it should be, except for the menu that pops up. So what I want to do, I'm going to shut this down. Oops. Let's just close this. And let's shut Windows down, because I want to take that Windows 10 flash drive out of there. And I want you to see the difference in the boot time from the mechanical drive to the solid state drive. Plus, being in the HCI mode is also a help. So let me just pull the flash drive here. And let's power this thing back on. And every time I think it's going to come up with this menu until I type a new command telling it not to. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Anybody get a time on that? Where we're at on the, well, right now, it just finished loading. So that's from the mechanical drive to the solid state drive. Let's do it one more time, because I was expecting that menu to come up. Shut it back down. Shut it down. Okay. Wait for the fans to stop spinning. Okay, both fans have stopped. All right, here we go. I'm going to turn it on and go. Let's see what our boot time is now. Let's see what we got going on here. Beautiful. I didn't even see the little circle thing. Just boom, right into the desktop. What kind of time we got, folks? Now, I still have to put in Windows 1809. Now, you'll notice that when I go to Windows Update with version 1803, it says I'm up to date. And technically, I'm up to date with regards to any updates to 1803. But what about 1809? Or how do you know? So the way I know is I just type in WinVer right down here, and it comes up and it tells me what version of Windows I'm running, which confirms that I'm on 1803. But I know that 1809 is the latest build. 18 is the year and 03 is the month. I want 1809, which is the latest update from Microsoft. So the way that I can force that, if I don't want to wait, it will eventually happen on its own, is I can use the Windows Update Assistant or Upgrade Assistant. So we'll just go to Google here and just type in Windows, I don't know, Advisor maybe, something like that. Upgrade Advisor, Update Advisor. Windows 10, download Windows 7, Upgrade Advisor. It should be the same, I believe. Windows 10 and Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor should pretty much do the same thing. see the download. And of course, I can always change my Google search. If I really want to be more specific, I can just type Windows 10 Upgrade Advisor. Here it's calling it the update, not upgrade, but update, and not advisor, but assistant, right? It's all just semantics here. To run the tool yourself, follow the instructions here. Update now, run. Yes. Update now. It's making sure that our computer is compatible. Let me close this window behind because this might get in the way of clarity. So yes, the computer's compatible, and I didn't even click anything. It had a countdown timer. So it went from not even offering it to moving forward with it before I clicked OK. This is Microsoft. You choose one extreme or the other. But I always like to have the latest and greatest for security reasons and also for the latest features, which makes the computer more valuable to the end user. And this is going to take a few minutes. And it's going to take longer than a few minutes, but it's going to happen faster with the solid state drive connected than with the mechanical drive. And then once all that's done, then I can mount the drive into this adapter and then place the adapter into this caddy, and it's off to the customer. So at this point now, our goal at this point is to find somebody who's deserving for this. And what we're looking for is somebody who would appreciate it, not somebody who's just looking to have an extra computer, not somebody who just thinks it'd be nice to have an extra computer for somebody they know. This is for you and only for you, provided that your situation is such that you would benefit from it. It would give you make you safer on the internet, that you have a faster responding computer than you have now, that you're on a limited budget for any reason. And that's what we're trying to define here in the chat room. If you think that you are somebody deserving of it, then tell me why, and then we'll let the audience vote, and we'll see who's going to get this machine. With the machine being $225, the adapter is about $10, and the drive is worth about $50. And the shipping's about, well, depending where it goes, it's got to be in the United States. I can't ship outside of the United States, but we'll call the shipping another $40. So it's effectively a giveaway worth over $300. And we want to make sure that it goes to somebody who's going to appreciate it and who's going to benefit from it and who's going to, be deserving of it, really. That's all we're looking for here. We're glad to have sent a computer out to a veteran in the hospital with a broken back, obviously somebody who's in service to the country like that and is unable to work, and maybe somebody who's older, can't work and is on a fixed income, somebody who deserves it. Is that you? Let me know. Tell me why. And then we'll all take a vote, and we'll see if we can't get decided today, if possible. I mean, we've got 840 people watching, and one of you could be the winner of this PC. And it's one advantage to watching live that obviously doesn't. People watching this after the fact have missed the opportunity. And of course, anybody who's a troll and been blocked or banned is because they thought their mouth was more important, is automatically not able to participate in the chat room anymore, so they can't win this giveaway. So it just makes sense. It's its own karma, when you're a supportive individual. Being polite and being considerate doesn't require money, it doesn't require skill, it doesn't require education. And so for those people who have displayed this level of disrespect, one of the side effects of being banned is being ineligible to participate in these kind of giveaways. So it's your own karma, right? So what I'm trying to do right now is just find some folks here that deserve it. That's all I can say. I don't know how else to say it. Kevin wants to know if Avondale, Arizona is near me. Any suburb of Phoenix, yeah. So Avondale, Tempe, Goodyear, Buckeye, Surprise, El Mirage, Glendale, Peoria, Chandler, Gilbert, Apache Junction, Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Tolleson, Surprise, Mesa, Chandler, a lot of suburbs, and of course Phoenix itself. So it's all near me. Rich Robbins says, I have 9 computers in my house. So part of being kind and considerate is knowing that there are other people who really need the computer. So I'm asking you to use some consideration and not enter yourself in if you're somebody who's recognize that there's going to be somebody else more beneficial to receiving this machine. Look, it's not a $1,000 computer, but it may be a world of difference better than what many viewers are using and probably shouldn't be using with regards to anybody still running Windows XP or Windows 8 or Windows Vista, heck, even Windows 7. Windows 7 expires in 12 months, less than 12 months. So it's time for people using Windows 7 to start considering that move to Windows 10. And your Windows 7 product key will activate, as long as it's a Windows 10, as long as it's Windows 7 Home or Pro, it will activate with the same product key, Windows 10 of the same version, Home or Pro. You can't use an enterprise key for a free upgrade, and you shouldn't even have one unless you pirated it. That's about the only way you'll have an enterprise key if you're watching me. And I'm not the product key police, so that's not my business and I don't care, but it just won't work for you because it's not designed for somebody to use in their home. Winston has contributed $10 Canadian. Thank you, Winston. He says, I want to give it to a real person in need and not a pretender. It can be difficult to tell, but I will say that knowing the person who won the previous computer the computer was shipped to a hospital. That's pretty hard to pretend. And the other machine was Tony. I've talked to Tony personally over the phone, and Tony's been contributing and is practically paid for the computer anyway, as far as I'm concerned. So Tony's got that coming. He'll have it Wednesday. And then this one is identical to that. And we're just looking for somebody that's deserving. And we're just looking for anybody in the chat who feels that they fit into that category and would benefit from it. And again, we're not giving it away to a friend or a family member or a neighbor. It has got to be the person directly that I'm speaking to. Just to remind you guys. If you are a veteran, if you are in any service to the country, you certainly couldn't hurt to let us know that. You don't have to be that specific with regards to what you do, but if you're in law enforcement or military, if you were impacted by the government shutdown where you didn't get a paycheck for 5 weeks, stuff like that. Limited income because of disability, or maybe you live in a rural area that is hard to find work, and I don't know. I'm not really looking for a sad story. I'm looking for a go-getter. I'm looking for somebody, I want to help somebody who wants to help themselves. I want to teach a man to fish. I don't want to feed a man a fish. Or a woman. I want the winner to be somebody who can use this computer to benefit themselves, not somebody who's just looking to get something for nothing. Sean Baxter says, I'm a veteran British Army, so I don't qualify. I think that's mandatory, isn't it, in Britain? Or no? Paul Carroll's contributed $10. Says, hello, Carey. I like the show. I just put a solid-state drive in my computer last week and copied my OS off the old drive. And I use the old drive for storage. The computer is 10 times faster now. Thank you, Paul, and good for you. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This is self-empowerment, self-realization, self-actualization. It's you put the effort forth and you benefited from it, right? That's what I'm trying to get across here. It's not a matter of what anybody tells you. It's not a matter of what anybody says. It's about what you do and how it affects you. So it was your bravery and your I can do it, your confidence and your money and your investment, and it all benefited you and only you. You get it. You get it now. That's awesome. I love that. Seth is sending me a link to a Newegg refurbished system that looks identical. It's a Core i5. It's only a 4th gen, 23157. It pretty much is identical to what I've got. An Intel Core i5 4570 is 3.2 gigahertz, which, again, is still the speed and frequency at which CPUs are sold today. 8 gigs of RAM. Anything below 8 gigs I wouldn't consider. 500 gig hard drive, which we would replace with a solid state drive, so it doesn't matter what size hard drive it's got. It is Windows 10 Pro 64-bit. And is it USB 3? That's what I would want to know. It does have a DVD reader writer, but I don't see the specs. I'd probably have to look it up on Dell to see, but I would want to make sure it's got USB 3. Otherwise, yeah, and by the way, we should put a link to this in the video notes below the video today, because if you're somebody who wants to buy a system, the shipping on this is just $3.99. It's going to cost me $40. So I can't ship at the discount Newegg and Tiger Direct yet. So $231.57 American, $3.99 shipping to the United States, and it's a Core i5 4th gen. So 4th gen is, 4th gen, which family is that? I can't think off the top of my head. Intel 4th gen. Haswell, really? Is it that new? What was 5th gen? It was Nellingham, and then Westmere, and then Sandy Bridge, and then Ivy Bridge, and then Haswell. So this is Ivy Bridge, right? So this has got to be 3rd gen that I've got here, and that link is better than what I've got, that link that was just provided. Good to know. That's a good deal. Absolutely worth considering. 80%. We're getting there. And it's going to reboot a couple times too, but we are getting there. Jordy's Tech Channel says he's got a giveaway going up on his YouTube channel, so be sure and check that out as well. And it might be for, well, I don't know if that's for UK members only or if it's software. When I do software giveaways, they can go, you know, that's a software download and a key that can go anywhere in the world. Hardware, there's a lot of restrictions and tariffs and customs fees and all kinds of nonsense. Plus the opportunity for damage and shipping is humongous. Service in any country's military is usually voluntary. Well, I wouldn't tell that to South Koreans. It might upset them. Mr. Stein says, I get older and slower while my computer gets younger and faster. Welcome to life. It's like an 80s video game. It just gets harder and faster until you die. Rich says, a computer like this one I'm giving away with this kind of speed and memory 15 years ago would cost about $2,000. Yeah, and what's $2,000 worth today's money? About $2,500, $2,800, something like that. Stephen Barber's contributed $2. He said, yes, the Dell 3020 is USB 3. Was that a 3020? Yeah, 3020T. Yeah, that's a good deal. You know what? I would buy that for $231.57 with $3.99 shipping. Even if it comes from JoySystems, it would still be worth my time to go through everything I'm going through. For sure. Definitely worth it, in my opinion. So do we have any disabled veterans in our chat room right now? Jeremy Clayton has posted something, but I need a link. Copying and pasting text isn't very useful to me because it doesn't, without a link, it doesn't mean anything. Franco says, I need to learn about computers. I get real sad sometimes when the know-how's not there. Frustrated older people. It's hard to find young people who really know what they're doing. You know what? It's really just because you're not good at something today doesn't mean you won't be the best at it, or you can't be the best. You can become the smartest, most capable person behind a computer, regardless if you're that person today. You just have to make that decision and that investment to want to learn, right? The resources that are available to you were not available to me when I learned this stuff. I didn't have the internet to go to. I had like the library and guys like Scott Mueller who wrote these wonderful books, Upgrading and Repairing PCs, very technical, very detailed, very accurate, very thorough. And then there were people I learned to trust and people I learned not to trust. People I learned who gave me bad information and people I learned who gave me good information. And that decided or determined who I would go to when I had questions. And it was very much more human oriented and less computer oriented, where data is data and very difficult to differentiate accurate data from fake data. garbage in, garbage out, as they always say. And the ability to learn now is right in your own hands. There's numerous websites, colleges that offer courses very inexpensively to people of all ages and all experiences, community centers, computer clubs, online courses that are both free. Places like Curious.com and YouTube are places where you can get professional lessons. Like Curious.com, you can actually pay for lessons. Nothing beats in-person student-teacher interaction, but you can come close to it online for a paid online service. If what you're looking for is free, then you're going to be slightly hindered in determining whether the information you're being given is obsolete, accurate, false. You know, there's a lot more decision making, and it's not as clear. So if you do pay for an education and you get it from a traditional academic school, like a college, a community college, that would be the best that you can get, in my opinion. There's also books available, but books generally become obsolete very quickly after they're published because of the length of time it takes to write, publish, and distribute the books. They tend to be quite obsolete by the time you get them. So like, for example, if you got a Windows 10 for Dummies book, which Windows 10 is it for? There's been 5 Windows 10s. So there may be features that they talk about that no longer exist, or features you have that they don't talk about because they didn't exist when they wrote the book. So that's why a real-time student-teacher, in-person classroom that's academic, you know, accredited by the state, that is the best you can do, in my opinion, unless you want to do it as a career, and then you need to go to more of a, less of a pass-fail type class and more of a degreed type class where you're graded and tested. So because if you're older and you're not looking to getting a degree, then these classes that you can take at your local community college are very affordable and a great resource for education. But you have to move forward. You have to make that effort. If you're expecting somebody to come to you and to train you and tutor you personally, and you expect that for free, and you expect it to be accurate and useful, I don't believe you have the right expectations that meet reality. Yeah, the update's stuck on 83%, but you just got to be patient and let it do what it's doing. It's working. It is a big, big update. Richard Bogan, if you want to contact me privately, you can email me and we can talk. Again, I'm not interested in anybody you know that can use it. This is about whether or not you yourself, not friends, not neighbors, not family members, no. Who is Red Dragon? What have I missed? Red Dragon, do me a favor and tell me your story in an email. So if you want to email me, you can go to carey@tech-vets.com is the email address you can use, C-A-R-E-Y. You know what, let me just type it in the chat room. And this email address is for business, okay? So if you're looking for free tech support, or you just want to say hello, you want to know how I'm doing, if you have nothing better to do and you're looking for somebody to have a conversation with, please don't abuse my email address or I will shut it down. So this email address is for business related inquiries only. So you have a PC you need fixed, you want to pay me to fix it, or you have a PC you want built and you want to pay me to build it, or you want to become a customer of mine, then please use my email address. With regards to this contest, if you feel you're eligible for it, please use the email address that I just posted in the chat. If you use it for any other reason, it's really easy for me to just block all future communication from you. I don't want to do that, but I can't allow people to monopolize my time and pull me away from work. I'm glad that you want to reach out and you want to say hello, and there's a proper place and time for that. In fact, there is a meet and greet that's going to take place September 20th through the 22nd. So this coming September in Grand Rapids, Michigan, there's a TechCon Unplugged is what it's called. And it's where a lot of podcasters are going to be, guys like Jeff Hallish from Podnuts, and hopefully Mike Smith from the Mike Tech Show will be joining us from Pennsylvania. A lot of viewers and listeners to these podcasts and videos, and many, many more that it's just too early for me to start being that specific with names. But if you're in the podcasting, tech podcasting community or part of my community, you'll hear more about this and you'll hear more familiar names as the date approaches. But as of right now, if you want to come and meet me, that's the proper forum for that, and I would love to meet you in the proper forum. Here we go. We can restart this computer now, finally. Yvonne says, is it okay if I join you in generosity for a Canadian veteran? In what way? I'm interested, for sure. I'm interested in what you're thinking. I'd like to learn more about what you're thinking. Who is Red? Where's? I keep getting pulled away. Red Dragon. Why do I not see a Red Dragon? I'm just scrolling through comments. I don't see anything from Red Dragon. Catherine says military is mandatory in Switzerland. I know it's mandatory in South Korea. And I am scrolling all the way through the chat, and I don't know, I don't see anything from anybody called Red Dragon at all. Nothing. I'm all the way to the top. Nothing. Let's go back to the bottom, see if they've talked since then. If you are there, Red Dragon, please type something in the chat room so I can see you. It's a red ghost is what he is. It's just nothing. Nothing. But to the viewers who are bringing that to my attention, thank you for that. Dusan says there's 14 yeses for Red Dragon, if I'm not mistaken. Red Dragon is gone. Red Dragon is made up. I don't know who you're, it's just not there. So maybe in a replay there. But anyway, so for people who want to be considered for that, please use the email address for that. Please only use the email address for business purposes. Because if you don't, you're probably not going to get a response, and then any future emails that come from your email address will be directed to the permanently delete before I even see it. The filter will just kick in. If you had any idea of how many emails I get every day, and to separate the ones that are, people that are looking for business versus people who just want to say, hey, how are you? How's the weather? What's going on? I just don't have time, man. I got to focus on helping people that are waiting for me. And I don't, it's not my intention to be rude. There's only one of me and there's only so many hours in the day. And I'm asking you, if you're a supporter and you really, want to be thoughtful and considerate, I want to hear from you if it's business related. I absolutely do. And like I said, with regards to the meet and greet, TechCon Unplugged in Grand Rapids, Michigan, September 20th through the 22nd. We can talk about the weather. We can do all that there. That's what that's for. That time is dedicated for that. And then there'll probably be other meet and greets. I'm hoping to do one someday in England. I would love to do a meet and greet. Even if it's not England, somewhere in the UK would be wonderful. I think I'd have a bigger turnout there too. But regardless of that, I don't want you to think this is the only time it's ever going to happen. There'll be others, but they don't happen very often because of expenses. And again, it interferes with my ability to get work done. So if you can attend it, it'd be great to see you there. This display port to HDMI adapter is fantastic, by the way. So much better than that VGA to HDMI adapter. Do a meet and greet in Phoenix. We had a meet and greet in Phoenix already a few years ago. There's just not enough people. We might have had, for the Mike Tech show, I think we had about 40 people in attendance in Philadelphia, and I think we had about 40 people in attendance in Phoenix. It's just not enough to pay for the costs. I mean, a hotel conference room, plus all the equipment and everything that has to be done, it's just, there's not enough people to justify it. Not yet, not yet. Red Dragon said he was a disabled vet that lost his home in a fire. Wow. Well, hopefully Red Dragon will email me and we can talk. So the video capture card I've got is HDMI only. So I need everything adapted to HDMI for that reason. Any other adapters are of no interest to me. All right, we're still doing the Windows 1809 update. I think we're going to be soon completed. And Red Dragon said he'd send an email. Fantastic, fantastic. So between Red Dragon and, oh, here we go. Go back to Windows Update. So even though we've updated, there are going to be updates to the updates. So we're going to do that now. And then I can close this behind it. We don't need that open. And then the other gentleman whose name eludes me at the moment, like I said, I plan to do some more of these. So if you don't get selected on this one, I'll put you on the list for the next one. All right, guys, I want to make sure I got your back. I'm here for you. This is a supportive community. People who aren't supportive get kicked out. If those people want to come back in with a different name and behave, they're welcome, right? I can't stop them from creating another name. But if they misbehave again, they get kicked out. And the only way they're going to get back in is if they change their name, to create a whole nother account. And we'll repeat this as often as necessary for them to either stay away or to show common respect and consideration for their fellow community members. And it's just a very simple process, a very simple way of isolating the trolls and troublemakers away, and the people, the terrorists trying to poison the well of the community. They get banned pretty quickly here. And we're going to make sure the community remains a safe place. The internet does not have many safe places, and I can assure you this is and always will be a safe place. Now that it's installed updates, we're checking one more time. All those updates are in. We should have Windows 1809. If I type WinVer now, W-I-N-V-E-R, we should be on 1809. And we are. So it's all up to date. Everything is as it should be at this point. Now there's a few other things we can do as far as making sure indexing is disabled. I don't like indexing. Go to properties on the C drive and turn that off. That'll take a few minutes. Yvonne, just use the email address, please, to contact me that I gave out. Jason Hager says, Carey, it's nice to see you giving out what others have made a killing on. It's just karma, guys. What I do generates my karma, and what you do generates yours. So, I appreciate your support, but I can assure you that nature has a way of keeping things in balance. It may not happen immediately. Don't confuse karma with instant karma. Those are two different things. But we all have to live with our own karma. Yes, I have to turn off hibernation file as well. Thank you for that reminder. And it's just about time, I think, to wrap things up. We've got about 10 minutes. So if you have any final questions for me during this broadcast, this will be the time to ask. I think once this indexing service has been disabled, let me make sure a couple other settings that I like. I want to make sure that I don't want it to restart on errors. Go to advanced settings, turn that off. And I think we can multitask. We can turn the hibernation file off right now. Type CMD, run as administrator, and type power CFG -H for hibernation off. Perfect. The hibernation file is disabled. No matter how much RAM you have a hibernation file of the same size. And if you have a limited storage capacity with an SSD, you don't want to waste that space. If you have 32 gigs of RAM, you'll have a 32 gig hibernation file. Whether you use it or you don't, you still have it. So by doing that, it frees up space. By turning off indexing, it frees up space. And it's only a 500 gig drive, so space is precious on a solid state drive. And then I like to turn storage sense on, so we can do that too. Let's check storage sense and make sure that we get rid of all the junk. Let's see, STO, storage settings. Turn storage sense on, which should be on by default. That's fine. David says, great stream as always. Was happy to finally get to join a live one. Very cool, David. Thanks for joining us live. Paul Carroll says, thanks for the sub to your channel. I see my name is a blue sub wrench by my... Yes, you are a moderator, Paul. Thank you for being a moderator. C Hammer says, as mods, we can only time out people and not hide people. Yes, please do not hide anybody unless they are being vulgar. Otherwise, just bring it to my attention. You can time people out if they deserve it. And even then, I want you to be very cautious about that. I want you to be very cautious. Yvonne says he'll email me. Very good. Thank you. Tony Wallace contributed $1.99. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for the update, Keith W. I'm good. It's all good. You're fine. Can you explain a little about the reasoning behind disabling indexing? I just did. It frees up space. If you've got a full hard drive or a hard drive that's, I don't know, half full, half empty, and look at how much free space you've got, then disable indexing, and then look at how much free space you've got. So when you're on a solid state drive, that adds up. Between the hibernation file and indexing, you can free up quite a bit amount of space, as well as deleting, turning storage sense on so that Windows deletes old update files and temp files on its own, negating the need for things like CCleaner or Glare utilities. They're now obsolete as long as you use Windows the way it's intended. Those other software programs are unnecessary and actually do the exact opposite. By installing those programs, you're adding more junk. So to install a program to remove junk is adding junk. Why would you add junk to remove junk? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to configure your computer. I don't care how you configure your computer. You're not paying me, so you do whatever you want. This is how I do it, and you may choose to do that the same way or not. It doesn't impact my life one way or the other. What is the benefit of indexing? I don't have time to get into that. For most people, there's no benefit to it, but you can Google that and receive all the information you want and more from WikiHow, Wikipedia, as well as numerous websites and other YouTube channels that can get into that level of information, where this is intended for novices. And I don't want to scare away people by getting into this technical nonsense that, listen, this is the advice I'm offering, and if you wish to learn more about it, I encourage you to explore that on your own. But I very much encourage education, and I encourage you to seek out those answers. But there are 700 people besides you that I have to consider. So I will answer questions that address the majority of viewers, and questions that are that specific, I'm going to direct you to Google. Just for that reason. It's not to be rude. It's just time management. Daryl wants to know if 90 megabytes a second in read and write is normal for a Western Digital 500 gig mechanical drive. It depends on the drive. There have been 500 gig drives made in the last 20 years, and the difference in the speed depends on what year it was made, what model of drive it is. So you can Google the model of drive you have. You can use something like Crystal Disk Info to pull the model of drive you've got, and then Google what the specs on that drive are. And then you can answer your own question very easily with that. But you know, if I saw 90 and it was going to be, I don't know, 120, it's not a big enough difference. You should be moving to a solid state drive. If you have any concern at all about the performance of your hard drive, you shouldn't have a hard drive. Solid state drives are just very inexpensive. There's no reason now to not have one, at least as a boot drive, and use your mechanical drive as a storage device. That's my opinion on that. Patrick says he hasn't seen Colin Hilton in a while. Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen him. Hopefully he's okay. Jim Desposito's contributed $2. He says, have a Coke on me. Thank you, Jim. And thanks for supporting the channel. If any of my moderators hide anybody, that's a quick way to lose your moderator status. So the best thing you can do as a moderator is bring it to my attention or do nothing, and you won't ever be criticized for that. But if you start hiding people and you start doing what I've specifically asked you not to do, then you've proven that you can't handle the responsibility that comes with being a moderator, and I will remove that moderator status so that you no longer have that burden. I hope I don't have to remove it from anybody, but you have to realize that you can cause a lot of damage to my channel, and I'm putting a lot of trust in you by making you believe. Please don't let me regret that decision. A lot of wind, you're fine. No worries, brother. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so Windows is finished here, and just to wrap up the live stream, I'm going to install the SSD properly, so we'll shut down the computer. I'm very happy with how it's configured, and its boot time for the price and the money that was involved for what we got back is better than any new PC you could buy anywhere. Even building it yourself doesn't compare to the value you can get from buying an off-lease machine and just putting a solid-state drive in it. Now, I've got the hard drive caddy here, and you do notice that the hard drive was in this way, so the SATA connectors were facing up. So on these Dells, the hard drive sits upside down. Hard drives don't care. They can be mounted horizontally, vertically, or sideways. They don't care. It's just important they don't shift around or be bumped or in any way jostled while they're in motion, while the head is reading the platters. It's a finer, the distance between the head and the platter is finer than a human hair, and so if the head makes contact with the platter, everything goes bye-bye as far as your data goes. So very, very delicate. So what I'm going to do is take the solid-state drive here and disconnect it for a moment, and I'm going to put it into the adapter. This is the Fenlink adapter, and I'll just copy the same link that I put into the other video, and it's just going to plug right into that SATA connector, and I'm going to push it up, and that's it. And I'm going to secure it because it's going to go in the mail. I want to make sure that this drive isn't going to break free. So here is the screws that came with the Fenlink adapter, and it gives us 4 screws for the adapter itself and 4 screws for a drive to install. And I only need the drive screws, which are smaller and a finer thread. They're much, much smaller. And I just want to use a mechanical driver. I don't want to use an electric screwdriver because it's just too much torque. It's overkill. And if you look here on the other side, you'll see the 4 screws go in each corner. And that's all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to secure the screws into each corner. And they are small screws. They don't take a whole lot of turns to get them to tighten down and secure the drive into the adapter. Just one more to go. Anybody can do this. Anybody can do it. Not everybody has the ambition, but if you have the ambition, you can do it. Now, this blue plastic around the drive, this is called a drive caddy or drive tray, and it's got little metal pins that go into the mounting holes so that it can be removed without using any tools by simply bending the plastic and removing the drive. Now, note where the SATA ports are, right? So I'm going to take this out. And that's why it's important that all the holes line up on the adapter. And we'll put this one in. And we'll just line the same holes with these pegs or studs, whatever you want to call them. And all I'm doing is bending this plastic as it's intended until the peg goes into that hole. And then remember, this went in upside down. I can place it in either of the 2 trays. And then I just plug the cables back on. So there's one cable there, one cable here. That explains why that cable's bent. And you can see the way that that flows. And then, of course, right here is the last piece of the puzzle. And this goes right back on like this. So I got some dust on it, which I'll just clean that up. You can just use a damp washcloth. You don't need to use any solvents or cleaners. And then we'll just make sure it still works. Turn it back on, flip it back over to the video input mode here, and it should boot up in, what did we say, 20 seconds, whatever that is. And that menu came up again. So I'm gonna, whatever that is, I'm gonna fix it. There's a little command there to get rid of that. So I'll make sure I get that addressed. Look how fast that thing is. Look how fast that is. And for that price, that's just an incredible value. All right, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up for today's stream. Everything looks good here on the screen. Like I said, I'll do little minor tweaks here and there, but mostly everything we've covered here is everything you really need to know to get you up and running and have it configured properly. The little tiny things like the menu and stuff, it doesn't really, that's just getting rid of some annoyances. And I created those, by the way, with those commands I typed earlier. So with that, thank you guys for joining me today. I do have an upcoming build. So that build, let's switch it back over. So that build is going to be, what is that build going to be? That build is going to be with a Phanteks Enthoo Evolve ATX case, a Gigabit Z390 Aorus Ultra with a Core i7 9700K with a Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro 4 cooler with 32 gigs of Corsair Vengeance RAM, basically 4 sticks that are 8 gigs each at 3000 megahertz. It'll have a Samsung 970 EVO NVMe 500 gig SSD with a Seasonic Focus 850 Gold, a GTX 1070 Ti from EVGA, and of course it'll have Windows 10 Pro 64-bit. And I think there may be a couple other components yet to be revealed. I got to talk to the person who owns it to see what other parts have yet to arrive, but that is a new build coming soon. So if you enjoy the video, be sure and hit that thumbs up button that's right below the video. And if you want to be alerted anytime new videos are posted, you can click on subscribe and hit that bell icon to turn on notifications. And do notice there are a couple of sub channels that are available now, the quick tips called Computer Quick Tips. Please subscribe to that if you like those kind of videos, because they're going to be pushed over there from now, well, not from now on, but very soon. They'll be segregated out. Subaru has its own channel. If you're just here for Subaru engine stuff, please subscribe to that channel. And then there's Cooking with Carey channel, and if you're interested in that, once again, the idea that it all won't be flooded into one mess like it is right now, this big melting pot of Carey Holzman, will be segregated out into separate channels to meet what it is you want to see, and then you can subscribe accordingly. And with that, I want to thank everybody who has joined me today and for participating in the chat, for everybody who has contributed. One more shout outs to all of the generosity of the people such as Jim Desposito, Tony Wallow, Merle Essex, who's contributed £5. Subdosh towards your giveaways, Good Geezer, that's from Merle Essex. Stephen Barber contributed $2. Paul Carroll. Austin TV contributed 20 Danish krona. I guess I missed that one. Thank you, Austin TV. He says, here, have a Coke. Matthew Albring contributed $5. Looks like I missed that one as well. Thank you to Matthew. Winston Englu contributed 10 Canadian dollars. And Sean Baxter contributed £2. G. Fletcher contributed £2. Wanted to know what my opinion on Western Digital Blue M.2 drives are. I've already covered that in a previous video, but basically, if you're just looking for a SATA drive, they're fine. Andy Reyes has contributed $20, and Ramek72, $5. Richard Bogan, $20. Richard is the person I need to talk to, as well as Red Dragon. Floyd's Ghost contributed $5. Stephen Barber, $2. Says that Dell looking like a boss, big and bad. Very good, thank you. Jordy Tech Channel contributed £2. Paul Howe contributed £10. Eric contributed $1 Canadian, and Elise contributed £10. Irving T from France joins us and contributed €5, and Stephen Barber contributed $2 again. Jordy Tech Channel contributed £5 again. Sharon Black contributed $2. Tony Wallow contributed $1.99. Juan Velez contributed $5. Says, I love these streams. Thank you, Juan. Stephen Barber, $5. Jay Wachtinik is contributed $5. Planet Cryos contributed $20. Yvonne Marikel, $7 Canadian. John Craig, €5. Art Awesome, $7.77. Nigel at £2. Rob Gurley. Justin Gaskill, Christoph Esch, Mr. Snidely, Tony Wallow again, Chris's Tech Channel, Maroof, and of course, the first contributor when I started the stream at 1:30, Tony Wallow. Thank you guys so much for your continued support and generosity. I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Travis Nall has just contributed $5 and says, I built my first PC from scratch and I'm hooked now. Thanks for the videos, Carey. Thank you to Travis. And all my friends there in blue, thank you for keeping it civil in the chat room. We got kind of a big audience today, which was very good. And sometimes it just, every once in a while, you get one of those little annoying insects, and I'm glad you guys were there to stomp them out there for me. And finally, to everybody else who isn't yet blue but will be, just because you're not blue now, my goal is to make you blue. I want to make you blue. So, Vance Stone Jr. just contributed $10 and said, I will message on Facebook. Yes, Facebook is another great way to reach me. And any swatting today? No, swatting is something, as far as I'm concerned, you can only do that once. You can never do it again to the same person. It can never, ever happen again. So you don't need to ask me if it's going to happen. It's impossible for that to happen again. Anyway, and Catherine Anna Hauserman, of course, if you're looking for any advice on putting a PC together, Catherine will give you that advice for free, and she'll ask all the right questions So, to meet your needs, expectations, and budget, reach her on Facebook. And of course, Catherine, thank you, of course, for doing what you do. Merle Essex, thank you for being who you are. And everybody else who, I just don't have time to go through all your names, but I want you to know I'm thinking of you, I appreciate you, and I hope I see you again very, very soon. Until then, hold on, I'm not ready. Okay, I'm ready now. That's going to wrap it up for this live stream. I'll see y'all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.